Two, oh, one. Oh, we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this hangout on Star Wars. Nothing but Star Wars. The Rise of Skywalker.
Star Wars. Nothing. Nothing but Star Wars. Oh, the X-rated
You dirty
version.
bastard. Right. Well, welcome everyone to this hangout on Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Apologies for the delay. This is a bit overdue. The film did come out, well, in cinemas back in Christmas, December 2019, but the movie is now on DVD, Blu-ray, and streaming, so it is available to watch on various platforms, but it is, at the current time we're doing this, the very latest Star Wars movie, and it was the end of the Star Wars sequel trilogy, and it was also the end of the Skywalker saga, which comprises of the three trilogies, which are the original trilogy, 4, 5, and 6, the prequels, 1, 2, and 3, and the sequels, 7, 8, and 9. So it's a big movie by a number of accounts, and it had to answer a lot of calls. So, yeah, and we did do reflections on the previous movies, including Solo and Rogue One as well. We those are on the channel as well, so if you want to listen to our thoughts on that, that's fine. So yeah, and if you haven't seen the movie, I would advise you not watch this at the moment. When you've seen it, come back. Or if you just don't give a shit about spoilers, then okay, fine, that's fine. Or if you have seen the movie, then whatever. Cool.
Yeah. We're gonna go into spoilers.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna go into spoilers. Yep. Again, if you're okay with that, then that's fine. Or if you don't give a shit, then whatever. So let's begin with. I think we'll start with Jack. So. Ladies first, what do you think of the Rise of Skywalker?
Oh, well, then I'm going to have to hand the mic over to you since you played lady on stage.
No.
But
I'm hosting. The host always goes last.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars. Only joking, that's the X-rated version. Lol. The Rise of Sidious's boner. But, yeah. No, yeah, Star Wars... Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Yeah, this is the last film in the Star Wars sequel trilogy. And it came out, yeah, quite a while ago, like pretty much 6 months ago now. And I mean, newsflash, I didn't buy the DVD or Blu-ray yet, so I'm just going on my memory of the film because I saw it, I think, a couple of times at the cinema. But Rise of Skywalker, I think this is a good, satisfactory ending to the series. I don't think it's as bad as people say. I know the critics really didn't like this one.
Yeah.
A lot of the fans didn't like this one. And I can understand some of the criticisms, but I still enjoyed this film. I thought it was a satisfactory ending to the trilogy. I think getting J.J. Abrams back was an interesting move because he had... directed the first film in the sequel trilogy, The Force Awakens, and Rian Johnson, I think, was initially going to do this, but then they decided that Colin Trevorrow, who did
Yes.
Jurassic World, he was going to do this, and apparently they leaked the script of what the film was going to be like if he did it. So, I mean, I think this probably out of the three new Star Wars films probably had the most production problems because of you had two directors that left. And this had a lot of, this had to satisfy a lot of people because Last Jedi was a very controversial Star Wars film. And
yeah, it kind of split.
There was a lot of...
didn't it? Like, literally half the people that hated it, they all turned away from the franchise afterwards, which was really weird. It was such a weird experience after The Last Jedi was released. I think we all agree that when we saw that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I still don't get the hate for Last Jedi. I can understand if some people were a little bit annoyed with it, but the amount of venom that film gets, I don't understand that. But yeah,
also,
I mean,
it is a better film than Venom. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, I like Venom, but yeah, I prefer The Last Jedi. But yeah, I think with this film, there was a lot of expectation going into it, or low expectation for the people who hated The Last Jedi. is this film gonna, fix the trilogy? Is it gonna be better than The Last Jedi or worse than The Last Jedi? And Last Jedi did open a lot of questions. I mean, I think it left more questions than it did answers at the end of that film, because you're killing off of Snoke, and I was sort of the middle chapter in the trilogy, and it sort of threw a spanner into the works, because everybody thought that Snoke was going to be the sort of Emperor character of the trilogy. But I think this film did a good job. I mean, I remember for the trailers hearing Palpatine's laugh, and I was thinking to myself, oh, are they bringing him back for this film, or is it just going to be flashbacks or something like that? No, they brought Palpatine back, and I kind of split on this. I mean, I kind of like the fact that Palpatine is back, because Ian McDermott is great as Palpatine. I think out of all the Star Wars villains, Sidious is my favorite. So it was nice to have the Emperor back, but at the same time, I think personally, I'm sort of not a fan of it in a way, because the Emperor was killed at the end of the Return of the Jedi. Vader.
So we thought.
Yeah, or so we thought. Yeah, and I mean, he was killed at the end of Return of the Jedi, supposedly by Vader. And I mean, for me personally, bringing him back kind of cheapens Vader's sacrifice a bit at the end of Return of the Jedi. I mean, I still don't mind that the Emperor's in this, but at the same time, I kind of sort of split on the whole bringing the Emperor back, because essentially they bring him back. Because they essentially just bring him back to have Rey kill him again. So in some ways, I don't know why they brought him back. It seems a little bit pointless. But
I mean, also, sorry to interrupt. There was this theory going around that apparently the Palpatine in this was like a clone or something. Because he'd been cloning Snoke. Apparently, the J.J. Abrams or someone mentioned that Palpatine was a clone or something. I don't know how much of that I buy, but yeah, I do agree with you that it does kind of dampen the end of Return of the Jedi. But I've just kind of learned to accept it. It's Star Wars. I mean, I think, to be honest, because The Last Jedi changed so much, I think they just brought Palpatine back because they didn't know what else to do. Like, so they killed off Snoke, and yeah, JJ just probably thought, well, what the fuck else can we do? Palpatine is like the overarching villain, so let's just bring him back, without any kind of consequence. But I mean, at least it's done tastefully. Would you say it's not done as like a cheap laugh or anything? He's not even actually in the film that much when you think about it.
Yeah, that's true. I think one thing though that I was kind of disappointed about though was the fact that they never explained how he survived. It was just like, oh, he's back, and I kind of agree with some people. Like the opening text, it's a bit stupid that he's alive, and he announces to the whole galaxy that he's alive. I mean, surely, if you come back, you wouldn't, want to announce to the whole galaxy, "Hey guys, I'm alive. I'm still here." But
even Alan said in his review, the opening crawl sucked. I mean, it was quite badly written.
Yeah, exactly. I just thought that was a bit stupid. Like, he's been dead all these years, and then he comes back and he announces it to the whole galaxy. They say like, oh, and they say like, oh, a message from the Emperor has been received or whatever. Which I thought, yeah, that was a bit stupid. But no, I mean, I think Ian McDermott is good in this film. I think he gives a very good performance. I think. They did explain how he came back in a Star Wars, I think it was like a picture book or something that came out last year, like late last year, where they explained that he was brought back to life with technology or something like that. So I'm assuming that they created a new... Yeah. So I'm assuming they created a clone body for him or something like that. Yeah. But apparently Yeah. But apparently he definitely died at the end of Return of the Jedi. But yeah, so here it's kind of interesting to see how different he is. Like, he's blind now, and he's attached to this like robot like machine thing.
Let's just call it a life support machine.
Yeah. Yeah, well, a life support machine where but
I mean, how old is he now? He must be over 100 years old by now.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a bit ridiculous. Oh, he's still alive, considering he's a human and he's not Yoda.
And when you first see him in the first scene with Kylo Ren, he's all disfigured and he's blind, and like so his fingers are all decrepit. He doesn't even look fully human, really. You know, it's kind of it is kind of ridiculous how he's still able. I mean, he can't even walk. He's got the thing attached to his back, so you know, yeah, he's just kind of on his last legs, really.
Yeah. But I mean, I think nonetheless, Ian McDiarmid is good in this film, and it's interesting to see the Emperor return. I think as well, it's a fun film for the most part. I think Ian McDiarmid is very good here, and it's interesting that he sort of wants Rey to sort of inherit his throne, and he's sort of trying to work with Kylo Ren. I mean, there are some interesting sort of references here to Return of the Jedi. There's that scene later on where Rey arrives on that planet and she finds like part of the throne room. I don't know how that survived, because what the Death Star was fully blown up at the end of at the end of Return of the Jedi. But nonetheless, it's nice to have him back here. The other characters, I think, are good. Daisy Ridley as Rey, I think, is very good here, and this is probably her last, appearance in the series, and I think she's good. But yeah, I mean, I think there are a few problems here as well. Like, there's some Jedi powers that they introduce here, which they didn't have in the other films. Like, for some reason, Rey can heal people's wounds and all that. There's that scene where she's fighting Kylo Ren and she stabs him like fatally, and then she manages to heal him. And then earlier on, she's attacking this giant creature and she hurts it and she manages to heal it. And I just find that a little bit ridiculous, because it's like, if they had these healing powers, they never had these healing powers before in Star Wars, and I mean, Luke was a Jedi as well, so I mean, I don't know why he just couldn't like repair his hand at the end of Empire Strikes Back when it got cut off, because because he got these healing force powers which can regenerate limbs and stuff, which I thought was a bit weird. I mean, speaking of the other people here, I mean, I thought Carrie Fisher was really good in this film. Unfortunately, she's no longer with us.
Yeah, even though it's not technically her, it's the deleted scenes. But yeah, I do agree. She's very good, and it is sad to kind of watch this and see that it's not really her, but it is her.
Yeah. I mean, I have to commend the editor for this, because he did a really good job making all these scenes fit in the film. I mean, it feels like they actually did shoot these scenes for The Rise of Skywalker. So I mean, I thought that was good. I mean, speaking of Carrie Fisher, I mean, I thought her death scene was handled well, where she sort of does the same thing that Luke does. Like, she uses the power of the Force to sort of project herself, and then then she dies.
It's kind of sad, isn't it? Because we've seen both of them from birth to death, really. Like in Revenge of the Sith, they were both babies at the end, and now they're dead. And that was quite a powerful moment. I mean, I guess we kind of knew Carrie was going to go, but they've been killing off each of the three original characters in the new trilogy. Like, Han died in Episode 7, Luke died in Episode 8, and now Leia dies in Episode 9. So, I mean, who knows what they would have planned for Leia had Carrie lived? But yeah, I just find that kind of ironic.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with Mark Hamill. It would have been nice if we had a scene between Luke, Han Solo, and Leia, like in the trilogy, like one scene between them. But sadly, they killed off Han in Force Awakens, and then Carrie Fisher died, and they killed off Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. So I think maybe that was a little bit of a missed opportunity that we didn't have all three of them on screen together. But at the same time, I still like their inclusion in the trilogy. It's nice to see Billy D. Williams in this film again as Lando, and I think he's very funny in this. He's like, send Leia my love and all that. Like, that was quite funny. Although saying that, I kind of wish he got a little bit more to do in the film. He didn't seem to do a hell of a lot, but it was nice to have Billy D. Williams in this film, and they didn't kill him off. I mean, I felt the space battles in this were very good. I enjoyed all the battles in outer space and the lightsaber fight between Rey and Kylo Ren, and you sort of got that flashback to Han Solo talking to his son. He's calling him Ben and all that. I thought that was quite good. And there are some dramatic moments in this. I mean, I really like the scene where they're on that desert planet and Kylo Ren's there, and Rey, she uses Sith lightning to destroy this ship. She's trying to pull it back, and she ends up destroying it. And Chewie was on it, and that was quite a dramatic scene. But thank God it turned out.
Or was he?
What? Yeah, and it turned out Chewie was alive, thank God. But at the same time, a friend of mine said he would have liked it if Chewie went that way, which would have been dramatic and quite good. But that was a good scene.
Don't you get tired of the desert planets, though? Sorry to interrupt. Don't you get tired of the desert planets? I think there's only like 1 or 2 films where they don't go to the desert. I don't know. It just kind of gets. It's like Star Wars' safety net. Going to a desert planet every 2 minutes.
Yeah. I probably have to agree with you there. I think with the desert planet thing, it is getting really monotonous now because, we had New Hope, fair enough, that was the first one, you had a desert planet. Then you had it again in Phantom Menace.
Return of the Jedi.
Back. Yeah. Return of the Jedi had the desert planet as well. You also had Rogue One, which had the desert planet, and The Force Awakens, and now this film, and it is getting really Solo as well. Yeah, it is getting really boring now. It's like there's more to the Star Wars universe than just desert planets. I mean, I like all the locations in Star Wars, Tatooine and all that, but what I like about the original trilogy is, for the first film, you mostly have Tatooine. For Empire Strikes Back, it's mostly Hoth, and then Return of the Jedi, it's mostly Endor. So you have desert, ice, jungle. So they should do something different now. I mean, I'm getting bored of the desert planet, and I do think there are some ridiculous things in this, like that whole scene. It was in the trailer, and like my friend said, and I kind of agreed with him, like that bit where Kylo Ren's going after Rey in the desert, and she just jumps over the TIE fighter. She does a backflip over it, whatever, into the air. Like, I thought that was ridiculous how she could like outrun a flipping TIE fighter and jump over it. I mean, I know she's a Jedi, but come on. I mean, I do like the stuff here though with Kylo Ren and Rey. I think it is quite good, sort of expanding more on what happened in The Last Jedi, where you had them talking to each other. That was good. And I think some of the other characters here are quite good as well. Like I think C-3PO is pretty good in this one, and it's kind of interesting. Like I think they have to wipe his memory at near the start of the film,
that just kind of seems unnecessary. Like he's just like, oh, my programming doesn't permit me to tell you the location of the Wayfinder. You have to erase my memory, and then I'll be able to turn evil and tell you that way. It did seem a bit like, JJ, do we have to really do this? It was just an excuse to have C-3PO have an emotional moment to say goodbye, but then we knew he was going to get his memory back, so what was the point? It just seemed kind of inconsequential to me anyway.
I agree, yeah. One thing I will say about J.J. Abrams is he really knows how to start a trilogy or start a franchise, but I think when he does a sequel, it's kind of where he trips a little bit. Case in point, I think Star Trek 2009 was really good, and Into Darkness, I thought, I really enjoyed it when I first saw it, but like when I rewatched it, it is just kind of copying Wrath of Khan. And thankfully, this doesn't copy, New Hope or anything like Force Awakens, but it does sort of feel a little bit unoriginal at points. Like it does kind of feel like, oh, let's copy bits of Empire and Return of the Jedi in there, with some of the dramatic stuff with the Emperor and stuff. Like I kind of feel like you really could have just cut the Emperor out of this, because I think it would have been better if you focused on Kylo Ren being the villain and like Rey trying to turn him back towards the light side. I kind of just feel like the Emperor was a little bit shoehorned in there. I mean, I love Ian McDermott, but like I said, the end of Return of the Jedi is powerful when Vader kills him. Now it's like, oh, you brought him back just so that Rey could kill him. It's like, well, then I kind of feel like, sort of, what's the point? Some of the character decisions here, I don't really understand. Like, I mean, I did like the scene with the Emperor when he's talking to Rey, and then we find out that Rey is actually a Palpatine, which I thought was a good twist. Actually, I thought that was very good. And you know, I kind of predicted that they wouldn't go down. I kind of predicted they wouldn't go down the Skywalker route, because everybody was saying, like, since the Force Awakens, oh, she's a Skywalker, she's a Skywalker, and I thought to myself, nah, she's not a Skywalker. And I'm kind of glad that they had this twist where it turns out she's the granddaughter of the Emperor. Although I was saying that, it's kind of funny, like, you know, who was the Emperor boinking? Because, like, we never saw him have a girlfriend in the prequel trilogy.
Yeah. Well, it must have happened within the time of when he was on Coruscant in the Phantom Menace, because he was that was when he was decent looking, at least, or at least younger looking. So perhaps he may have had a wife back then or something. I mean, we never heard about anyone. That's the thing. We never knew about his love life. I mean. It just was weird. Will you go on a date with me? Yeah, I mean, and also, like, they mentioned about his son, like the Emperor had a son, and his son had a wife, and then he orders the death of his son. Yeah, it did feel. I mean, that part, the backstory felt a bit rushed, but I mean, I didn't mind.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
Yeah, like the son seemed like I would have made more reference to the Emperor's son, but whatever.
Yeah, I think you're right there, actually. Yeah, I do think that was a bit rushed. And yeah, I don't know why he just kills him. I mean, it's like, I mean, I know the Emperor's a bastard, but really, you don't care if your son dies. All right, okay, whatever, or your daughter dies. But yeah, I mean, I just thought some of his character decisions were a bit weird, because he says to Rey, like, oh, you're my granddaughter, and, you know, take your place, you know, at my side, you know, you shall be the Empress of the Galaxy. And then, you know, Kylo Ren's there. And I find some of the stuff here a little bit weird. Like, he gets the lightsaber and he puts it behind her back, and somehow Rey gets it. I mean, I find that a bit weird. I mean,
well,
I know
I mean,
the Force.
They obviously used the Force, didn't they, to do that? So
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I've never seen that before in Star Wars. Like, you know, I mean, I've seen, like, they use the Force to pick up an object and give it to someone, but I don't know how you could transport a lightsaber through the Force. Yeah. But anyway,
I don't know if you remember earlier on, Kylo Ren said to Rey, "We are a dyad in the Force," which means that they're connected. So, and also in the Last Jedi, they were always talking through connection. So, I mean, to me, it doesn't bother me that much. But, and I suppose the lightsaber is his, because he is Vader's grandson. So, yeah, I mean, but I can see why you say that, because it's not happened before. So, I guess they're trying to do something different, at least. So, but that's my perception of it anyway. So.
No, that's fine. Yeah, no, I mean, it wasn't the biggest issue out there, but I mean, it was a little bit weird. But yeah, I mean, I think, I just think it's a bit weird. The Emperor's like, oh, you know, become the Empress of the Galaxy, and then, you know, as soon as Kylo Ren shows up, he, like, sucks the life force out of both of them, and he's like, oh, I am the true Emperor. It's like, well, make your mind up. You know, one minute you're saying Rey should become the Empress, and, you know, strike me down and all this stuff, take your place, and then he's like, oh, I am the Emperor. It just seemed a bit weird to me. I was just like, kind of like, oh, like, you know.
I think the Emperor's just manipulating them. Like, he's just, you know, he just talks a load of BS, doesn't he? You know, he's just he's just trying to fuck with them, isn't he?
Yeah, but at the same time, like, Return of the Jedi, you know, his motivations are quite clear cut. He's like, oh yeah, you know, kill, you know, your father and take your place on my side. He's not like, you know, saying to him, oh yes, kill your father. Then like, oh wait, look, don't kill him. I actually want, you know, him to stay with me. You know, just thought that was a bit weird, but nonetheless, you do get a good lightsaber fight. At the end, I do like some of the character interactions here. I like the stuff with Leia, Princess Leia. I think the soundtrack here is pretty good. Sadly, this is John Williams' last soundtrack for the series. I think he said that now that he's done 9 films, he's done with the franchise. And, you know, I have to give my hat off to him, because he did a great job, especially at the original trilogy soundtrack and the prequels. I haven't been as big a fan as his soundtracks for Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker, or even this film, but I think you can tell he's sort of running out of ideas, and he is an old man now. I mean, he's approaching 90. I think he's at 86 or 87, but he did a good job here, and I will always. It's going to be weird, like now on watching Star Wars films without the John Williams score, because it's sort of been the DNA of Star Wars films. But yeah, I thought he did a good job here with the film. I think also like the ending where Rey kills, the Emperor. I mean, that was kind of cool, but at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, well, I just think it's a bit pointless bringing the Emperor back if you're, for one film, if you're just going to have Rey kill him again. It's just to me kind of cheapens Vader's sacrifice.
To be honest though, we all kind of knew he was going to die. I think I kind of thought, well, clearly Rey's going to kill him at the end because this is how it works. It's Star Wars. It's
yeah, but at the same time, I just think at the same time it's like, well, I would have preferred it if he just died at the end of Return of the Jedi when Vader because I mean that scene was powerful, where he's like, oh, you would pay for your lack of vision, and he starts electrocuting Luke, and he's like, oh, Father, please, and you see Vader looking back and forth, and he picks him up, and depending on which version you watch, it's the Blu-ray. He's like, no. God. But yeah, thank God George Lucas isn't directing these films anymore, doing his own special edition cuts. But
no, Ray, no.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I did like the ending of Return of the. For me, that was a perfect ending where Vader throws him down there. But yeah, I think with this, I do like the twist of her being a Palpatine. But I mean, I just think at the end, killing him off again. Well, yeah, I don't really see why he brought him back. But I did like the ending where she's dying, and then I think they have a kiss. Although saying that, I just kind of find it weird that Rey and Kylo Ren all of a sudden fancy each other. Like, I didn't get any of that in the previous two films. It sort of comes out of nowhere. The sort of love story thing or whatever, or this kind of romance. Like, she gives him, like they both kiss each other passionately, and just thought it was a bit weird. I think the ending where she's dying and Kylo Ren gives his life force to save Rey. I did like that, but at the same time, I think it would have been a ballsy move if Rey, like when she stabbed and mortally wounded Kylo Ren earlier, that's it. He died there. Instead of sort of going down the same route that we've seen again of, oh, he gets redeemed at the end. Like, we've seen that before. I kind of predicted they were going to go for that again with this trilogy of, going down the redemption arc.
I mean, and in a way, they do. But obviously he just dies at the end. But I can definitely see where JJ took the same similarities. Like, once Rey stabs him, it is literally like, she's killed Kylo Ren, but Ben Solo comes back. If you know what I mean. But yeah.
I just think it would have been a ballsier move if she had killed Kylo Ren earlier and that was it, and then later on when she fights the Emperor on her own, she kills the Emperor, but at the same time she dies as well. I think that would have been a really powerful ending, because I thought at the end, oh shit, she's going to die, and I think that would have been a powerful ending. Instead, it's kind of like Kylo Ren dies, which is sad, but to me, it kind of feels a bit like a sort of typical, like, sort of normal Star Wars ending. Everything's fine, sort of thing. We save the galaxy. But yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, I think the film is still good. I think it's a good film.
Sorry, Jack. Just one more thing. Sorry to keep interrupting. What did you think of the flashback scene with Leia and Luke when they were training, and also seeing Leia's lightsaber, and also the scene with Luke as a ghost? I don't know if you remember that at all.
Oh yeah, no, I remember that. That scene was good. I thought that scene was very good, actually. That's probably my favorite scene in the film, or one of them. And all the scenes with Carrie Fisher in this were lovely. I loved all those scenes, really great scenes. And her, I mean, of course she's dead in real life, but when she died in the film, that was quite sad and powerful.
I mean, the new characters as well. There's like Richard E. Grant and a couple of other new characters.
Yeah, don't they play the Death Star guys?
Richard E. Grant was General Pride, and that's not in reference to gay pride. That's just the name. It's just the name of his character. And there was also the woman. I think her name was Jana, the black-haired woman. And then there was Zori Bliss, the Spice Runner, who knew she was the girl that never took her mask off. She knew Poe. I don't know if you remember.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember the Spice Runner or whatever, like the one who met Poe. Actually, I liked all those scenes between her and Poe. They were really good scenes. I thought her character was really good. I wouldn't mind seeing a film with her because like her character looks quite interesting. But yeah. And what else was I going to say? I thought the ending wasn't bad. It was decent. And yeah, I thought Richard E. Grant was actually very good, and it was interesting to see. I think, what's his name? The one that Domhnall Gleeson plays.
Hux.
Yeah, Hux. I like seeing his sort of conversion to the good side or whatever, or like, well, not conversion to the good side. I mean, he doesn't like Kylo Ren.
I think he's just getting revenge on Kylo Ren. He says, "I don't care if you win. I just want to see him lose." But he's like their mole or something, but he gets ratted out, and then I think he gets shot. So he doesn't really do much in this film, which is a
I was gonna say he was a bit wasted, and his death was a bit anticlimactic. But yeah, I mean, overall, I forgot to mention as well. I liked all the stuff with Snoke. You find out that Snoke was a clone. I thought that was quite good. The Emperor, sort of pulling the strings, behind the scenes all this time. Although one scene I really don't understand is how he managed to assemble a group of Star Destroyers out of nowhere. Literally, he just like raises his hand and all these Star Destroyers come out of the ground. They come from nowhere. Yeah. I thought that was a bit ridiculous, to be honest. But
I guess he's been hiding them away on Exegol, hasn't he? But I see what you mean. Yeah, they do just kind of ascend. It's like Palpatine now has godlike powers or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's like all of a sudden he can assemble these Star Destroyers with like men. Like he can create men on these Star Destroyers and stuff. Like what? Like it just kind of comes out of nowhere. He creates this fleet of Star Destroyers.
You know what he should have said? He should have said, like he said to Anakin in Episode 3, "Rise, dun 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 dun."
That would have been funny. Oh God! Once more, the Sith shall fuck the galaxy, and we shall have peace. God,
the great impression.
Cheers, thank you. No, I mean it was great to see him back in this film, but at the same time, I kind of conflicted. I kind of wish they didn't include him because I just think it sort of cheapens Vader's death a bit at the end of Return of the Jedi. But overall, I think it's a good film. I think maybe I was very generous in my original review. I gave it a 9 out of 10, and I think that was probably a bit too generous. I think now, for me, it's probably the weakest of the new trilogy. It's still a good film. I still enjoy it, but I think it's flawed. I think there are a lot of flaws in there. Like I said, the bringing back the Emperor, the Star Destroyers that come out of nowhere, the sort of love story between Rey comes out of nowhere, the sort of new made-up powers they have, like healing with the Force. Like, I mean, if they had all those powers all along, why couldn't Luke heal his hand or heal Vader at the end of Return of the Jedi when he's electrocuted by Sidious? There's just a lot of loopholes and logic flaws in there, and character, decisions that I don't really understand. Like the Emperor seems like he doesn't know whether he wants Rey to take over the throne or whether he wants to still be the Emperor. So, I mean, I think I was very generous giving it a 9 out of 10. I think probably because I'd seen it in the cinema a couple of times, I thought, oh, this is really good. And I still think it is good. I mean, I still think it's better than the critics say. I mean, it's got very bad critic reviews. I think it's got like 30% or 40% on Rotten Tomatoes. Not very good critics reviews. I think it's actually the worst reviewed Star Wars film by the critics, if I'm not mistaken. Hold on, I'll have to check that.
I think because I think even the prequels, the Phantom Menace, it's like 50% or something, and so does Attack of the Clones. But I even the Last Jedi has a higher critical score, but the audience score is really low for the Last Jedi, which is weird. But Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's got a very mixed reaction. I think it's probably the lowest or one of the lowest Star Wars films. I think it might even be lower than the Phantom Menace. But I do think for me there are some flaws in there. It's still a good Star Wars. I don't think it's anywhere near the worst, but I don't know if I could call it the best either. I definitely think it is a bit of a step. Yeah, it's even lower than the Phantom Menace. Phantom Menace is 50%, and Rise of Skywalker is 51%.
Boy, mate.
So I mean, I can understand some of the negative reviews, but I still think it's good. I don't think it's bad at all at any stretch of the imagination, but I do think I was sort of generous in my original review. I think it probably is for me the weakest of the sequel trilogy. I think if I had to rank them, I'd say the bottom would be the bottom would be Rise of Skywalker, then
Actually,
Force Awakens,
sorry,
then at the top.
sorry, Jack, to interrupt. Is it all right if we do our rankings at the end, and then we can rank the trilogy and rank the whole series?
Right. Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Sorry, I should have mentioned that at the start. I apologize.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Yeah, but I mean, spoiler warning, it's probably the weakest of the Star Wars sequel films for me, and I do agree with some of the fans that they probably should have planned out this trilogy before they did it. I mean, it's quite clear they didn't plan out this trilogy before they did it. I mean, because of the stuff in The Last Jedi and in this film. But I still think it's a satisfying end of the trilogy. I'm not going to rant about it like some fans. There's some fans out there who absolutely despise it, hate it with a passion, like people who hate The Last Jedi, and there's even fans who despise The Force Awakens. I mean, Star Wars fans are really hard to please, very toxic sometimes. But,
yeah, I actually hate the Star Wars fan base. I actually hate them. You can't please them. Like, if you try and do something different, they'll fucking say it's not Star Wars and they'll run off. And then if you do something that's too similar, they'll be like, "Oh, it's more of the same." It's not. Well, what do you want?
Yeah.
Make your minds up.
Yeah. No, I do agree with that. Like, fans who complain about The Force Awakens being, ripping off A New Hope or being too similar to A New Hope, and then they complained that Last Jedi was too original. It took too many risks. It's like, well, you complained that The Force Awakens was played it safe and didn't take enough risks, but you're complaining here that The Last Jedi took too many risks and it's too original. I mean, I don't get Star Wars fans, but yeah, no, I think this was a good film. I'm not going to say it's great. I'm not going to say it's amazing. It's definitely not the best Star Wars film, but it's definitely not the worst either. I think it's a good film, but I do have flaws with it, like the stuff of the Emperor bringing him back. I just think was a bit pointless after Vader's sacrifice at the end of Return of the Jedi, and some of the character decisions, some made up powers that we haven't seen before in Star Wars, some logic loopholes there. But I still think it's good. But yeah, for me, it's probably the weakest. So I'm probably going to close off by giving it a 7 out of 10. But
Oh wow,
yeah, it's still good. Yeah.
Come right down then. Well, okay. I guess we move on to Alan, baby. What do you think of the Rise of Skywalker?
Rise of Skywalker. Okay. Don't know if I'll be able to talk as much in depth about it as Jack did, but I'll try to. I'll do my best.
I mean, if you need help remembering, I saw the movie about a month ago, so I still fairly remember it. So if you need any confirmation on anything, just let me know, and I'll see if I can lend a hand.
Okay. That's cool, Ollie. And also, I've got the page on the movie from Wikipedia up here on my iPad for more information. But okay, we'll see how it goes. Yeah. All right. So the Rise of Skywalker. Man, oh man, this is going to be. I guess this is going to be forever a controversial Star Wars movie, just like the one that came before it, The Last Jedi.
Probably not quite as much, but yeah.
Yeah.
I think all three films have been. Sorry to interrupt. I think all three films in this new sequel trilogy have been controversial among Star Wars fans. But yeah, sorry, go ahead, Alan.
Well, The Force Awakens, I think, is the least controversial, and it was a box office juggernaut. It's still the highest-grossing movie of all time in North America. It even made more money than Avengers Endgame here in North America. So obviously, more than enough Star Wars fans, I think, were happy with The Force Awakens. But once you get to The Last Jedi, that's when the shit really hits the fan. With a lot of fans angry and upset and saying, "Oh, fuck this! Fuck Star Wars! This isn't what I wanted." And some of them bitched and complained about The Last Jedi, and loudly about The Last Jedi.
Oh,
And
God.
it looks like, it looks like history repeated itself with The Rise of Skywalker, with a lot of fans angry and upset and revolting. I know I showed you guys that video that's on YouTube where they were watching a movie, or sorry, they were watching The Rise of Skywalker at some movie theater in America, and it was the very end of the movie, and Rey says the very last line in the movie. The movie ends. It's like the whole audience looked like they were about to smash up the theater. They were so angry, like, "Oh, fuck this, fuck Star Wars, I hate Star Wars." It's right there on YouTube. And this is a very, very divisive movie, especially because it's the final movie in the Skywalker saga, and it obviously had a whole lot to live up to, and it was also following on the heels of a most controversial Star Wars movie in and of itself, of course, which was The Last Jedi, which again, not all the Star Wars fans were happy with it, to say the least. So I don't know. It's almost as if J.J. Abrams was kind of, I'm not going to say he was fighting a losing battle, but it was pretty obvious that there was no way, no matter what direction he took Rise of Skywalker in, there was no way he was going to make all the fans happy. He did. Impossible. He wasn't going to make everybody happy. Some of the fans would like it. Other fans were going to hate it. And, I think that was very brave of him to come back to the Star Wars series and finish the saga with Rise of Skywalker, because it's pretty obvious he wasn't going to make everybody happy with this.
Sorry, Alan. Also, just to reiterate that as well, I think that's the thing with Star Wars. Ever since the original trilogy, the fans have had a problem. Like there's always been hate for the movies ever since the originals. The prequels people hated, the sequels people hated. There are some people that hate Solo. Rogue One did actually fairly well, but there were a couple of people that hated it. But so generally, there's been no way to fully please the fans since the original trilogy, since Return of the Jedi. That seems to be a common problem.
Yeah. I was going to say that as well. It seems that since Empire Strikes Back, the fandom's been very split on a lot of the films. I know Return of the Jedi has got some haters out there. There's some people who there are a lot of fans who actually really hate Return of the Jedi and say it's the weakest and all that. And there's people who hate the prequels, and there's people who hate Force Awakens and Rogue One and all that. So yeah, it seems like since the second film, I think universally, people agree the first two are amazing, but it seems like after that, it's like since Return of the Jedi onwards, a lot of the films get a very mixed reaction from some people. But yeah.
Yeah, as you say, Jack, I think even going back to the classic trilogy, I think only the first two movies, A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back, those are like the only two Star Wars movies that everybody in the fan base likes. You can't call yourself a Star Wars fan if you don't like A New Hope or The Empire Strikes Back. I think most people agree those two movies, perfect, they're brilliant, they're classics. I can't find any faults in either of them. All the Star Wars fans in general love A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back. But as you say, once you get to Return of the Jedi, that's where the fan base starts to split a bit. And again, speaking for myself, I like Return of the Jedi, okay? I like it, but I do think it's the weakest of the original trilogy, and I'm not the first Star Wars fan to have said that. I still like it very much. It's more than enjoyable. It's a more than satisfying conclusion to that trilogy, but I don't think it's perfect like A New Hope or The Empire Strikes Back are to me.
Fair enough.
But and I was just gonna say, in every other Star Wars movie that has followed Return of the Jedi, same thing, where you have some fans who like it, you have some fans who don't. I don't know if they're ever going to make a Star Wars movie ever again that will please all the fans like A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back did.
I mean, the thing is as well to consider is that in the last 5 years, we've had a film in every year. Since 2015, we've had Force Awakens, Rogue One, Last Jedi, Solo, Rise of Skywalker. So there's been 5 consecutive movies in 5 years. I think people are honestly burned out from Star Wars. I think the movies need a rest. I think the films need to have a long hiatus again before they consider what they're going to do and actually plan out what they're going to do. Because, I mean, this new trilogy is good. I like it, but a lot of people make the criticisms that there was no vision for the trilogy. I know you're going to talk about this as you go on, Alan, but I think it's just worth mentioning about the amount of movies we've had recently. And I think even you guys said it, that, we're due a break, I think, after the Rise of Skywalker. So maybe that's why people are just tired, and this film obviously has offered nothing new to them. But yeah, I still think it's good. It's good.
I still like it too, and I'll get into that very, very shortly. But yeah, I think you're right that maybe Disney and Lucasfilm, that they were a little too generous with this new wave of movies because they started popping them out a little too soon. I mean, okay, that we only had to wait a couple of years between the Skywalker films instead of 3 years, but then they threw in, the standalone movies, Rogue One and Solo, and even those 2 movies turned out to be very divisive with the Star Wars fans. I mean, I think we all agree we love Rogue One, but not every Star Wars fan loved it. There are even a few fans out there who hated it and said so. Like I said, those guys at Red Letter Media were very vocal in their hate of Rogue One,
which I think is so unfair. It's really, really unfair.
Yeah, exactly. And they're just one example, but and of course Solo was not received particularly well, and I think we are all in agreement that they released Solo too soon after The Last Jedi. They should have waited until Christmas, and they didn't. They just rushed it out. And although I like the movie, I like it very much. I mean, I watched all of the Star Wars movies again a few months ago. I did a marathon, and I also included Solo, and I like Solo. I think it's very good, but they rushed it out. They should have waited, and I think that was a mistake. So now people were really sick and tired of Star Wars by this point, but they still had to release The Rise of Skywalker. Even if you are burnt out on Star Wars, I mean, they had to give us Episode 9 and finish the saga. End the trilogy and end the Skywalker saga, once and for all. So getting to the movie itself, we know that The Rise of Skywalker had a very troubled road to the screen because, well, first of all, the movie that preceded it, The Last Jedi, was so divisive amongst the fans. I mean, what Rian Johnson did with that film was not to everybody's liking, although... yeah, I mean, I like the movie, and I also accept that it's the middle chapter in this sequel trilogy. It's not the final chapter, and usually the middle chapter in a trilogy, especially when you're talking about Star Wars, it's arguably the darkest chapter. It's not the very beginning of the story, but it's not the end of the story either. And you take your heroes and you plunge them into a really dark place in the middle. And boy, Rian Johnson definitely did that with The Last Jedi. But I still find the movie very enjoyable. I don't hate The Last Jedi as some other Star Wars fans do. I still think it's a very good Star Wars film. It's not the best in the saga, but I still think it's very good and entertaining in its own right. I did think it was still pretty jarring that Rian Johnson made the decision to kill off Snoke in The Last Jedi when I thought Snoke was going to make it all the way to the end of the trilogy. That was still pretty shocking that he made that choice. But, so obviously J.J. Abrams, had a big, he had a big challenge coming up with Episode 9. after the after what the Last Jedi did and how it divided the fan base. It also has to be worth noting that Episode 9 was originally going to be written and directed by Colin Trevorrow, but he wound up leaving the project, and he took his script for Episode 9 with him. And I mean, since then, I think the script he wrote for Episode 9, which, by the way, if he had directed it, the movie would have been called Duel of the Fates, named after that classical piece in The Phantom Menace, the lightsaber duel. Yeah, he would have titled it Duel of the Fates, but his script has been leaked online, and I think somebody on YouTube actually did like an animated version of his script, like a quick Reader's Digest version of Episode 9 as Colin Trevorrow wrote it. And I don't remember all the aspects of it, but Colin Trevorrow's version of Episode 9, he definitely was going to take Episode 9 into some interesting areas that J.J. Abrams did not go into. But I think what happened in the end was that Kathleen Kennedy, who's now the overlord lady of Star Wars, as we all know, since George Lucas sold it, she was not particularly happy with Colin Trevorrow's script. And I think Colin Trevorrow was not willing to rewrite it. And he just walked away, and he took his script for Episode 9 with him.
Yeah.
So that was J.J. Abrams' opportunity to come back and do Episode 9 himself, but he wasn't allowed to work off Colin Trevorrow's script. He had to rewrite the whole thing.
Does Kathleen Kennedy just not get on with anyone? Because she fired the original directors of Solo, Phil Lord and Chris Miller. I thought she'd fired Trevorrow, but okay, he walked away. So maybe Kathleen Kennedy's a nightmare to work with, or you just can't please her.
I don't know if she actually fired him, if he walked away, but I know that what's been reported is that she and Colin Trevorrow clashed over his script, that she wasn't happy with his script. She didn't like the direction that he took the story in Episode 9, and he was not willing to make any changes to his script. He said, look, this is it. It's done. This is what I want to do for Episode 9. Kathleen Kennedy said, no. I don't like this part. I don't like that part. I don't like this part over here. You got to change it. Colin said, no, I'm not changing anything. So he left, and he took his script with him. I think that's basically what I heard. If I'm wrong, somebody out there in the comment section can correct me, but that's the story as I understand it. So J.J. Abrams came back, and it fell to him and Chris Terrio to write their own Episode 9. Now, the first stumbling block, it has to be said, which is nobody's fault, is the very sad tragedy of Carrie Fisher dying at the end of 2016. Obviously, they had plans for Leia in Episode 9 that had to be scrapped and rewritten because of Carrie Fisher's death. And that's the way it seems to be with the main trio from the classic trilogy and their connection to the new trilogy. How Episode 7, Han Solo played a big part in Episode 7. Luke Skywalker played a big part in Episode 8, and Leia was going to play a big part in Episode 9. But whatever plans they had for Leia in Episode 9, of course, had to be scrapped and rewritten with Carrie Fisher's death. That is certainly not the fault of the filmmakers. It's nobody's fault that Carrie Fisher died. And, I mean, the woman certainly had no intention of dying at the age of 60. She certainly wanted to go on. She could have had so many more years left to go. Very sad, though, that it turned out that she was still struggling with drugs. In fact, I was looking at her Wikipedia page before we started, and she had traces of certain drugs in her system. I think they said there was like cocaine in her system. There was even like some bit of ecstasy in her system, something like that. And on top of that, they said that she was also suffering from sleep apnea, which I myself suffer from. You are talking to somebody who has been diagnosed with severe sleep apnea. I mean, I can only sleep with the aid of a CPAP machine, but it works. It helps me to sleep, thank God. And
is that
makes me wonder?
Sorry to ask a question. Is that different to insomnia, or is it kind of similar to that?
It's just extremely difficult to sleep. Your breathing passages are kind of blocked when you lay down, and so you snore. You can't breathe properly, and it may keep you awake at night. And not only that, I also had the added problem that I was having to get up every single hour in the middle of the night to urinate. It's like every hour I was getting up to take a piss, and that, of course, interfered with my ability to sleep. It was terrible. I finally got treatment for it, and I was officially diagnosed with severe sleep apnea, and that was when they finally set me up with getting a CPAP machine. And God bless that CPAP machine, because it helps me to sleep. I put the mask on, I fire up the oxygen, and it knocks me out. I sleep a good night's sleep. I don't snore. I don't have to get up every hour to take a piss, and I sleep well. So God bless the CPAP machine for helping me cope with my sleep apnea and helping me to sleep. But my point of mentioning all that is that that's what Carrie Fisher was diagnosed with. And surely somebody of her stature and with her, she was obviously fine financially, no problems there. Why she couldn't get treatment for her sleep apnea when she certainly could have. Maybe it was undiagnosed. I don't know, but between the sleep apnea and her struggles with drug addiction, that's what apparently killed her. And it's very sad, very tragic. I mean, we all loved her, and obviously her death was not the fault of the filmmakers. So obviously, it's a terrible shame that we will never get to see what they were originally going to do with Leia in episode 9.
Yeah.
But obviously Abrams had no choice but to rewrite it. But what do you know? He found a way to get around the problem by using this unused footage of these unused scenes that were made of Carrie Fisher from The Force Awakens. And I think they said there was also some unused stuff from The Last Jedi. But, we lost Jack.
Oh, yeah.
Jack's going to come back.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that's why I let him go first, just in case there was anything like this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with all due respect to Jack, I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah.
Just to keep things moving.
Sorry, before you carry on that subject, I think you're right. Yeah, what a beautiful way to include Carrie in the film, because they could have easily have just taken the decision to write her out of the story, but I think that would have been very disrespectful. And again, they would never have recast the role. They wouldn't do that for the last film. They wouldn't dare do that. So this was kind of the only thing they could do.
That's right. I mean, thank God that they had that unused footage that they were able to. I mean, using this unused footage of her, they were able to actually piece together a performance from her. And,
I mean, it's only a few scenes, but it fits. It fits like a glove.
It fits like a glove. I thought it did. Some fans thought it didn't work. I thought it worked beautifully. I mean, and they did it with a lot of love and care, weaving the footage of her into the movie and making it look as if she was right there on set for episode 9 with the other actors. Although she mostly acts with Daisy Ridley as Rey. But I thought they did it with a lot of respect, a lot of love and care. It's also worth noting it was done with the blessing of Carrie Fisher's family. Her daughter, her brother. They approved of them doing this.
Yeah.
And I thought it worked wonderfully. I think there were a couple of places where they used a body double, and maybe they did a little bit of CGI work on the body double's face.
They actually used her daughter. I think Billy Lord was used as a body double for Carrie Fisher at points, and actually for the scene when Luke and Leia flashback.
Well, yes, I mean, Billy Lord. Yeah, Carrie Fisher's daughter, Billy Lord. She is in the movie. She plays one of the resistance fighters. But I think for the couple of scenes where, I mean, for example, when we only see Leia from behind, but I think this is when she's starting to die. She's starting to lose her strength, and we see someone. It might be Billy Lord herself. I'll have to look at it again next time I see the film. But she's helping Leia to walk away because Leia is obviously not feeling well. And then the moment when Leia finally uses the last of her force power to reach Ben or Kylo Ren, and then she finally takes her last breath, and she slowly falls back on the bed and dies, which is done in shadow, by the way. I think that was clearly the use of a body double for that scene. But the way they put her in the movie, I thought was really well done, very tasteful, and done with a lot of love and care.
Yes.
And they were able to piece together a final performance from Carrie Fisher in the movie and include her in the movie. And I thought it was for all intents and purposes, a very beautiful send off for Carrie Fisher and a beautiful send off for Leia. Because the only other way they could have done it, if they didn't have this footage, I kind of envisioned them starting the movie with the funeral of Princess Leia for General.
Yeah.
Now
That's what I was thinking as well, Alan. I was thinking they were going to do that as well.
You thought that?
I was thinking that they were going to. Yeah, I thought that as well.
Yeah. If that footage didn't exist, then that's probably the only way they could have done it, was start the movie with Leia's funeral. That she became sick sometime between Last Jedi and this movie, and the movie begins with their funeral, and I'm sure they would have given her a fine send off with that. But thankfully they did have this footage, and they were able to put Leia in and piece together a final performance out of Carrie Fisher, which I thought was very beautifully done. The overall story of Rise of Skywalker, I think is very good. I think it's very enjoyable. I'm going to agree with Jack that maybe I too was a little too generous with the movie when I first saw it. Maybe because the honeymoon period has since ended, and I've heard all the criticisms of the film, and I've taken those criticisms into account when I've recently watched the movie. And I can only tell you, I still like The Rise of Skywalker very much. I still think it's a very good, very enjoyable Star Wars movie, although I don't think it's the best one ever made. No. But I still think it's very good. But, some of those criticisms that were thrown at this movie, I think there might be a little grain of truth in a little grain of truth, although they don't wreck the movie for me. But I can see why some people would be upset about this scene or upset with that scene. And I do think to myself, this scene could have been done a little differently here. That scene over there could have been done a little bit differently. This scene over here could have been done a little bit differently. I mean, there were so many different ways that J.J. Abrams could have mapped out this movie and had it done. And maybe these alternate ways of doing these scenes that I have running around in my head might have been more satisfying to the fans than what they did. I mean, let's see. I'll just give one example. Okay, when Leia has died, and they cover her body, and she's laying there in the bed, covered up, and Poe is sitting down next to her body, and he's like talking to her and praying and things like that. I thought that scene was a little too rushed. I thought J.J. Abrams could have taken a little more time with that. And of course, in later on, Lando comes into the scene and he sits down next to Poe. And although it's a nice scene, I think it was a little too quick, and maybe it could have gone on a little longer with a little more heart-to-heart talk between Poe and Lando. Not done so fast. That's just one scene that comes to mind. I will also mention J.J. Abrams' decision to bring back the Emperor. I'm not complaining. I think it's fun to have Ian McDiarmid back playing the Emperor one more time. But I can't help but think to myself, if you're acknowledging in episode 9 that Snoke was just a clone, you could have brought back Snoke. Just
Yeah.
You could have. The way they could have done it was that the Snoke that we saw killed in The Last Jedi was just a clone of Snoke. The real Snoke, you could have brought him back for episode 9. So you still could have had Snoke in there, and you still could have had Andy Serkis to come back one more time as Snoke. It wasn't necessarily the end of Snoke by killing him off in The Last Jedi. I mean, it just could have turned out that Snoke was a clone that Kylo Ren killed, and the real Snoke is still around. So, but J.J. Abrams decided to go the other way and go, okay, Snoke is dead. What should I do? What should I do? The Emperor. I'll bring the Emperor back. There you go, and I'll give the fans, fan service at the same time. Again, I'm not complaining that he brought back the Emperor, but I'm telling you, Snoke still could have been brought back in Episode 9.
Yeah.
No problem. No problem. Just that, okay, he's a clone. We saw a clone of Snoke get killed in Last Jedi. You still could have had Snoke in Episode 9. But okay, that's not the way it wound up going, and we've got back the Emperor. Okay, I don't mind the Emperor coming back. It's great to see Ian McDiarmid one more time as the Emperor. He's obviously whooping it up, and it's great to see him whoop it up as the Emperor one more time. But I keep running around in my head. Okay, he survived Return of the Jedi. He didn't die when Vader threw him down the shaft, because we all thought he died. And okay, how did he survive? And apparently, according to Rise of Skywalker, he also managed to save a chunk of Death Star with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Survived the destruction of the Death Star. Okay. The only thing I can think of how that could have happened is I can't think of anything else, how else he could have done it, guys. Okay, Vader threw him down the shaft, and just before he hit the bottom of the shaft, the Emperor threw this force field around himself, and that broke his fall. And then when Vader and Luke and the rest of us weren't looking, he managed to float back up the shaft. He flew back up the shaft, and then he threw his force field around not only himself, but through the force field around that throne room in the Death Star, and he managed to save that chunk of Death Star by throwing a force field around it. And then after the Death Star blew up, if you can even go along with this shit, because I know this is crazy shit, then the Emperor and that chunk of Death Star he saved, with the force field around them, they flew over to this planet and landed.
Well, apparently that planet is Endor. So, well, apparently, I mean, I don't know how true that is, but if it is Endor, then clearly the explosion may have caused a rift, and it might have just blown the pieces of the Death Star into the water. That's how I see it. But yeah, it is that is a little bit unexplained. It is a bit. JJ didn't really think about that, did he?
Not only that, but somebody pointed out as well. I think that when Rey sees that evil version of herself, she's got like a red double-bladed lightsaber or something like that.
Yeah,
or like,
right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a bit weird, but yeah. I was going to say, Alan. Sorry to interrupt, but would you agree with me that bringing back the Emperor kind of cheapened Vader's sacrifice a little bit in Return of the Jedi? Because I thought it was really powerful in Return of the Jedi when Vader threw the Emperor and killed him at the end. Like, would you agree that maybe bringing him back for this kind of cheapened Vader's sacrifice a bit at the end of Return of the Jedi, or like, yeah?
The way I see it now, it all depends on how you look at it. I mean, I still think Vader, or Anakin Skywalker, if you prefer, that he still redeemed himself. Just his act of throwing the Emperor down the shaft, just by that one act alone, he redeemed himself. The Emperor actually getting killed, which is what we all thought had happened, is a bonus, really. But just the fact that he threw the Emperor down the shaft, I mean, he redeemed himself, and he saved his son Luke. So just that act alone, he still redeemed himself. But it is pretty whack that we all thought the Emperor was dead, and now all of a sudden he's back. Oh, and not only that, he managed to save a chunk of Death Star along with himself, which is really weird. Yeah. And okay, and not only that, we also, I think you also brought this up, Jack, we also have to go along with that somehow he managed to get a whole, like, an audience of thousands of Sith Lords living with him in secret, and apparently they built all of these starships, I mean hundreds and hundreds maybe even thousands. I mean, how can you fit that many amount of ships on the
on that planet? That planet is and that planet is the home of the Sith Lords. So that part makes sense. But the fleet, I agree with you there. That doesn't really make sense. But I mean, I don't mind the audience being there because I assume that they're just the Sith who have been trained there. But whatever, it's Star Wars, isn't it? It's all kind of lost.
I'm getting to that too. But yeah, the fact that that he and all these Sith Lords that are in the thousands, hundreds of thousands have been living together on this planet in hiding, and they've been building all these Star Destroyers, and apparently all of them they're all hidden in the water, and they all have planet destroying capabilities now. So you don't need the Death Star anymore. Now you've got ships that can blow up planets, if we can accept that. And nobody knew of their existence down there until we got to this movie. But you guys are absolutely right. It's Star Wars, and you just got to throw in the towel and go with it. If you're going to have any chance of enjoying these movies, you just got to throw in the towel and go okay, fine, whatever. It's Star Wars. It's fiction. It's all made up. It's as fantastical can be, and either you can go along with that or you can't. I've made the decision to just go along with it.
You know what it's like, Alan? It's like Father Christmas. You can either believe it or you can't. You can throw in the towel or you can't. The only difference is you can't ask The Rise of Skywalker what you want for Christmas. You can't ask J.J. Abrams what you want for Christmas. He'll give you a Star Wars movie, but he won't the continuity.
Yeah. Can I put it to you guys another way? And actually, this is something you can watch on my YouTube channel if you want to. One of the Doctor Who related goodies that's on my channel is a rare interview with Terry Nation, who created the Daleks. He did an interview for KTEH back in the late 80s. And there is one part of the interview where Terry Nation says something to the effect that, when you are the writer of a fictional piece, you're kind of like God over this fictional piece, that anything that happens in it happens because you, the writer, says that it happens. Logic and common sense don't necessarily have to apply. If trees talk, they talk because I, the author, say that they talk. If rocks roll by themselves, they roll by themselves because I, the author, says that they roll by themselves. And because it's a fictional work, okay? It's all make-believe, but you as the audience, you can either go along with it or you can't. So in J.J. Abrams' defense, if the Emperor survived being thrown down the shaft, then I guess he survives because J.J. Abrams says he survives. And if he managed to save a chunk of Death Star, he saved a chunk of Death Star because J.J. Abrams says he saved a chunk of Death Star. And me as the audience member, I just have to go along with it and go, okay, fine. I mean, I can also disagree with it and I can dislike it. I can hate it even if I want to. But, one thing you really got to have if you're going to enjoy these Star Wars movies is that I really think sorry, having difficulty talking. You still have to be in touch with the child in you to appreciate these movies.
Try telling that.
Would you...
What?
Try telling that.
Would you say you need to...
Well, yeah, try telling that to the fans. But would you agree with me? You still got to be in touch with the child in you, I think, to appreciate these movies and enjoy them.
No, would you say you need to? Would you say, Alan, you need to suspend your disbelief?
If you can do that, that's fine. If you can do that. But like I said, look, you can like or dislike anything that you want, but I'm just saying regarding the Star Wars movies, you can hate the Star Wars movies if you want to, and some people do, but these movies are meant to entertain, to take you to a far off place, in time and space, and
the galaxy
these outlandish characters, another galaxy. Sorry?
In a galaxy far, far away.
The galaxy far, far away, and it's meant to entertain you and thrill you, and to you're meant to enjoy the ride, even if some of it is illogical. But again, going back to the original Star Wars movie with the Death Star, if you can accept the fact that that a man-made planet-shaped weapon can blow up a planet. I mean, that's a astronomical amount of firepower the Death Star has to have. I mean, logically, no such weapon can even exist. But Star Wars fans have been accepting the Death Star for years and years without any complaints. So if you can accept a Death Star, a man-made weapon that can blow up a whole fucking planet, why can't you accept that the Emperor survived and the Emperor saved a chunk of the second Death Star, and the Emperor and these Sith Lords have been building thousands of ships? Why can't you go along with that stuff? You know, you can go along with the Death Star from the first movie, you know?
Yeah, well, then again, we couldn't go along with Jar Jar Binks, so yeah.
Yeah, well, we do have our limitations, don't we? We have to know where to draw the line, I guess.
Oh, icky, go!
Yeah. So I can only tell you guys that when I first saw The Rise of Skywalker, I mean, the kid in me had a wonderful time. I was definitely smiling when the film ended. And I think it's a very enjoyable film. But looking at it now, I can see that maybe I was a little too nice, a little too generous. I'd probably drop my rating
Yeah,
down.
same.
Sorry?
I know, I was just saying the same. I think I was a bit generous as well when I first reviewed it.
When I first reviewed it. But like I said, the bottom line for me is that I still like the movie because I still think there's more than enough there that's still enjoyable. And, you know, logic doesn't necessarily apply to Star Wars movies. I mean, it's all fictional. It's all fantastical. It's, you know, it's an imaginary world, imaginary characters, and either you can accept it as entertainment and appreciate it as entertainment, or you can't. And I'm sorry that that so many Star Wars fans have gotten so bent out of shape, especially with the most recent movies, and they simply have not been able to appreciate them. And I think that's too bad for them that they can't appreciate them. But I do. Even
it's kind of sad as well. Like, wouldn't you say it's a bit sad as well that Star Wars fans are so bitter and divided now over these films?
It's totally sad. It really is. I don't think these films, the later ones, I don't think they deserve the hate that they get and continue to get. I don't think they're perfect. I think the last perfect Star Wars movie, in my opinion, really was The Empire Strikes Back. The first two movies, I think, are perfect. All the other movies are either, you know, slightly less than perfect, or you know, in the case of the prequels, most are just plain bad.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, I definitely enjoy most of the Star Wars movies. I think I'm only not a fan of the first two prequels, Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. Didn't like either of those. I thought Lucas definitely got on better footing with Revenge of the Sith. Still not a great movie, but I think it's the only prequel movie that is actually good.
It'll do.
So I like that. Yeah. And I like all the other Star Wars movies to varying degrees, including the one we're talking about today, Rise of Skywalker. Let's see. I know Rey gets picked on quite a bit as being a Mary Sue, that maybe she's a little too powerful. And in some ways, maybe a little too powerful, I guess. I mean, I can see their point, and the fact that she's so powerful without having practically any training whatsoever. It's only later on that she gets a little bit of training. And yet, you know, I don't mind. I've never disliked the character of Rey. I mean, I like her very, very much. I mean, first of all, I like the actress who plays her, Daisy Ridley. Very good actress and very pretty. Let's not kid ourselves. And I liked her in the role of being this very strong female character. I mean, right from the word go in The Force Awakens, even before she realizes that she has any force powers. I mean, you know, she's a tough cookie. You know, she can take care of herself. She's good with that, with, you know, fighting with that staff, and, you know, she's pretty scrappy. And yet, as that movie goes on, you know, Daisy Ridley shows us, you know, the softer side to Rey, and that she can be really nice and friendly and likable. And she continues to show that over the course of the next two movies. But she is force sensitive. And of course, we find out in Rise of Skywalker that there's a reason for that because of her bloodline, but not the bloodline you originally thought. I've always liked the character. I've never ever had a problem with Rey. I've always liked her very much. See, we do like strong female characters. Okay, we do
Yeah.
like them, but they have to
Yeah.
be handled just the right way.
Oh,
And
what did you think
yeah,
of
I
the revelation about Rey that she was a Palpatine? I'm sure you're going to go into it, but were you okay with it, or were you a bit like disappointed?
It was definitely a surprise. It wasn't what I was expecting, but at the same time, I'm okay with it because I mean I think we all knew that she was obviously related to somebody big. It's just that we all thought that she was a Skywalker. So the fact that they unveiled that no, you're actually a Palpatine, but then that opens up the here's another criticism you can throw at Rise of Skywalker. Okay, so that means Palpatine was in a relationship with some woman and had a kid, who then when they grew up, I guess a son, and then when the son grew up, he had Rey. Okay, so who was this woman who got with Palpatine? They don't tell us. We don't know who she is. We don't. I assume it was when the Emperor looked normal as he did in the Phantom Menace, not the ugliest fuck Emperor that we've seen since then. But he was the decent looking Emperor from the Phantom Menace. But who was this woman who got with Palpatine? We don't know. We're never told.
I just had
it was the slapper down at the whorehouse. Well,
I was just thinking, did he buy a sex slave with Tatooine? I mean, Anakin and his mother were slaves. I mean, I'm not saying it was Shmi, but well,
yeah, because I don't think any of that Mandalorian bullshit happened with the Emperor. I mean, I think he had sex with some woman, which resulted in a son, and then when the son grew up, you know, he had Rey. And
God, could you imagine?
But yeah, I agree. I mean, this is a question that a lot of Star Wars fans are asking: who the hell was this woman that got with Palpatine? And we are never told. We will never ever know.
Been Queen Amidala, is it? Oh God.
Oh God.
It's not her, because I know there was the whole thing with her and Padme switching over. So perhaps he maybe got the other queen into bed. I mean, he was manipulating her to get Valorum out of the Senate or whatever. So I wonder whether it happened.
I mean, although saying that, like you see his, I guess you see his son or his daughter or whatever in a flashback in the
son.
His son in the Rise of Skywalker. So I'm guessing it didn't happen then.
Palpatine's son and his wife. Yeah, so they had Rey. Although we're not told anything about Palpatine's son, other than he's the father of Rey, but we don't know anything about him either.
Not only that, Alan, but didn't you think it was a bit like pointless or a bit like needless for the Emperor just to kill his son and daughter? It's like, well, son and daughter-in-law or whatever. I mean, I still think that he probably just went to a whorehouse on Tatooine and he probably got a lap dance from like a local like sex slave, like, you know, like
he went to Jabba.
Yes.
Okay, if you can accept the fact that Rey is a Palpatine, that she's Palpatine's granddaughter, I mean, okay, this is another instance where I'm going to throw in the towel and go, okay, Rey is Palpatine's granddaughter, so be it. But who was the woman that Palpatine got with? And I mean, not told.
With the lack of explanation, we really want to assume it was fucking Jar Jar Binks. I mean, jeez.
Maybe he.
So many, and again, why would he want to go? Why would he want to kill his son? I mean, his own son. You know, I mean, so many unanswered questions.
Who is the son as well? He's just this random, you know, like trait. Like they just live on Jakku, so presumably the Emperor went onto Jakku one night and just,
jacked off.
He
jacked off on Jakku.
He could feel his boner. Yeah, I don't know whether actually the Emperor may have actually assaulted someone. I mean, it's a bit dark for Star Wars, but
yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking as well. Like, could he have done that? Could he have raped someone? God.
I mean, he is that evil. I wouldn't put it past him, but I don't know. It would have been too dark for Star Wars. So the fact that it's kind of unmentioned it's like mentioned in a fleeting glance, like, oh look, here he is, here's his son, and then he's dead.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, JJ, can you just go back a bit, please? Like,
Yeah,
it's not
I mean,
properly.
yeah. I mean, what I think is, sorry to interrupt, Alan. I'll let you interject in just a brief second. I mean, what I think is that he probably got a sex slave from Jabba the Hutt, or like I said, he probably went to some strip club on Tatooine, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to make it rain, Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars." Like,
You want to buy some death sticks?
Yeah, I mean, so many unanswered questions regarding that part of the story, you guys. So many unanswered questions, but okay,
that's
whatever.
True.
It's I'm throwing in the towel and going, okay, fine, whatever. J.J. Abrams, fine. Okay, Rey is Palpatine's granddaughter. Fine, so be it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not.
I mean, one thing they didn't understand. One thing I was kind of disappointed about that they didn't explain either in this new trilogy is that like they said Rey left her on like Jakku, but I don't know. I mean, they showed like a flashback of her family in this film, but I don't think they explained why they left her on Jakku. Like, was it to
because they were being hunted by the Emperor, so they wanted to keep
that was
safe from the Emperor.
Yeah, actually, that was it. Yeah, I remember that scene now. But yeah, I mean, it's just I just kind of find it weird as well. I think Alan will probably agree with me. Like, they never explain. Like, we still don't know how the First Order rose from the ashes of the Empire, which they tried to briefly explain in the opening text of Force Awakens. There's still some answers they didn't.
A 30-year gap from Return of the Jedi to the Force Awakens. So the galaxy presumably was at peace for some time before the First Order just rose out of nowhere. So yeah, it did just kind of start, didn't it? Like, without much explanation.
Yeah, really. Yeah. So I mean, there's issues with the movie all over the place, and yet, I still find the whole thing, to be fun overall. If I can bring up a few other things about the movie. Okay, first of all, being that this is episode 9, you think that this is the movie that was going to... Let me put it this way. It's hinted at in The Force Awakens, if we're going back to the first movie, where it's hinted at that maybe Rey and Finn are going to get together as a couple. And then we get to The Last Jedi, and Rian Johnson throws in the shoehorn of Rose.
Who, by the way, does nothing in this film.
Who does nothing, yeah. But then it looks like, now it looks like Rose has romantic interests in Finn, and, she gives him that kiss that so many Star Wars fans find really funny. Even I thought it was kind of a chuckle when I first saw it. But okay, now it looks like Finn and Rose are going to get together. Then we get to episode 9, and nothing happens. Nobody gets with anybody.
Yeah, I mean, is that much of a problem though? Well, other than Rey and Kylo Ren, no one gets together. Is that a problem for you? Because I didn't find that to be a huge issue.
I think it is a little bit. Yeah.
I just think it's kind of silly that they kind of set up that some romantic thing was going to blossom between Rey and Finn, and then Rian Johnson took it into another direction by throwing Rose in there. Now it looks like Finn might get together with Rose, and then we get to Rise of Skywalker, and nobody gets together with anybody, and in the end, they're just friends. Although Rey and Kylo Ren, who has now redeemed himself and changed back into Ben, they have a oh-so-brief romantic thing.
And that comes out of nowhere as well. Yeah.
That came from out of nowhere as well. Yeah, that was pretty weird. So that I mean, I'm okay with it. Again, I'm okay with it. I accept it. But again, this is another area where this particular plot line could have been steered in a different way than the way J.J. Abrams steered it, and the way he steered it, I know, might not be satisfactory to everybody. All that setup in Force Awakens that maybe Rey and Finn would get together by the end of the trilogy. To the end, and they don't get together.
I mean,
if I may, sorry, there is one person who actually does get together with someone, Palpatine. Although we don't know who it is.
Right, exactly. Although there is that little that quickie romantic thing with Rey and Ben, formerly Kylo Ren, just before he dies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
and
one thing I didn't. One thing I was going to say, Alan, is like, is it just me? But like, Finn did nothing in this film. Like John Boyega's Finn, and I agree with your point. Like, they set up the fact that Finn and Rey in The Force Awakens might be a couple, then nothing happens. Then they set up the fact that Finn and Rose might be a couple in The Last Jedi, then nothing happens. It's like, why are you doing this? And like, why did you, you didn't even bother to do anything with Rose in this. She was just there for like 5 seconds on screen.
Jack,
but
Jack, all you're saying is like, basically just fuck already. You're just tired of them pissing about. You want them to just
but I mean, but I mean, at the end of the original trilogy, you had Han and Leia throughout the trilogy, teasing each other, and there's sort of a bond beginning there. Like you think maybe Luke might get with Leia, but he doesn't know that that's his sister until I think Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. So you think that they might get together because she kisses Luke at the start of Empire Strikes Back, and then you think, oh, it might be Luke and Leia, and then it turns out it's Han and Leia, and that's great. But it's like, I agree with Alan's point. It's like, this trilogy, they set it up as, Rey and Finn might get together, and that doesn't happen. Then you think it might be Rose and Finn that get together, but that doesn't happen either. It's just, it's a bit disappointing, but I agree with your point,
totally
Alan.
understand. I see what you mean about the fact that they set it up and it wasn't delivered, but I honestly, the romance stuff really doesn't bother me. I mean, it's not like Attack of the Clones where it was like forced. I mean, I'm kind of glad they kind of pushed that to one side, but they shouldn't have bothered setting any romance stuff up. It wasn't needed for this trilogy. I personally think. But anyway, yes, I'm sorry, Alan. I've interrupted you enough. My apologies.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. So yeah, that's another thing about the movie that I have an issue about. And then of course, moving on to and by the way, I mean, I still like the character of Rey. I mean, I still like the way her story goes in this movie, and I actually kind of like the fact that that we saw that, well, maybe she's not as all-powerful as we initially thought, because towards the end of the movie, it's not the very end of the movie, but in the third act, or leading to the third act, she and Kylo Ren have another lightsaber duel, and this time it looks like Kylo Ren is going to beat her. That that she starts to weaken, and although I think she's also distraught by the fact that she's been revealed to be a Palpatine, and I think initially she can't handle that. But we can see, I mean, Kylo, I mean, he's kind of holding back. I mean, he's I mean, she's going down. She feels she's hurt. She's like down on her knees. It's like her hand hurts, and she's getting weak. She's getting more frustrated, and he's kind of holding back. It's like, you want to do this all day? I mean, I'm kind of holding back here, but we can see she's getting weak, and he almost kills her, but then that's where Leia steps in and reaches Kylo Ren through the Force, using the last of her Force energy to reach him, and Leia manages to distract him, and that's the moment when Rey, runs him through with her lightsaber, which will then lead to Rey helping Kylo Ren to turn back into Ben again, that kind of thing. Yeah, his arc, Kylo Ren's arc, I thought was interesting, but I kind of wondered to myself, how are they going to handle Kylo Ren redeeming himself and becoming Ben Solo again? Is he even going to be redeemed? I mean, for goodness sake, I mean, he killed his father Han in probably the most depressing scene in the whole saga. Which, I mean, it's a powerful scene, but it's a big bummer for me every time I watch it when Han Solo gets killed by his son. But can Kylo Ren even be redeemed at all? And yet he is. I kind of like the fact that he got a dose of his own medicine with Rey finally, running him through with the lightsaber, thanks to Leia stepping in to help, using the Force. And then Rey, heals him, and that makes him finally, change back into Ben and redeem himself, and then he comes back to help Rey for the final fight.
I was going to ask you, Alan, what did you think of like the powers, the made-up powers they brought in this film? Like, the fact that Rey can like heal people who are like mortally wounded. Like she heals Kylo Ren when she mortally wounds him. She heals that creature earlier that she really badly affects. Like, to me, it just seems like a force power that's come out of nowhere. It's like, if Jedis could do this, they could heal like mortal wounds and stuff, with the Force. It's like, well, then why didn't Luke, because Luke was a Jedi, why didn't, he repair his hand with the Force at the end of Empire Strikes Back? Or why didn't he heal Vader, who was like mortally wounded by the lightning at the end of Return of the Jedi by the Emperor? To me, it just kind of like this Force power just kind of comes out of nowhere. I mean, like, what did you think of that new Force power they introduced here?
Well, before I answer, can I also throw in how come Obi-Wan Kenobi didn't know that he could do this and save Qui-Gon Jinn in the Phantom Menace and kill him? Yeah, that kind of thing.
Because
that's a good point. Yeah,
the midichlorians didn't tell him to do that.
Yeah, I mean, no, you got a point. I mean, when it opens up another Pandora's box about logic and illogic. I don't mind Rey having that power, but again, it kind of turns her into a Jesus-like figure that she can do that. We never got to see Luke do that. We never got to see Obi-Wan do that. Never got to see Qui-Gon Jinn do that, or any of the other Jedi. We never got to see Yoda do that. But somehow Rey can do it. Again, I'm okay with it. I mean, some people say that the scene with that big snake monster that they find in the cave, who Rey manages to heal, and then the monster, I guess, is appreciative of Rey healing her, and then it slithers away. But again, I didn't mind that scene. I don't mind Rey having that power, and then it turns out that Ben also has that power too, which he uses to serve Rey at the end. I don't mind it, but again, as you say, why didn't we see Luke do this, or Leia, or Obi-Wan? Or Yoda? Why didn't we see any of the other Jedi do this in the past? That they throw in this Jesus-like power in the very last movie. I understand the controversy about it. I understand how some fans are pissed off by that, but again, I don't mind it. Again, I've already thrown in my towel. Okay, I've thrown in my towel and got okay, fine.
Also, another example of that is Revenge of the Sith, when Anakin is burning to a crisp. You think Obi-Wan could heal him and reverse that, but whatever. Like, I throw in the towel. I've kind of chosen to forget about all the continuity now with Star Wars. I just enjoying them for fun now. But I do see.
Yeah, exactly.
It is kind of too late to introduce new Force powers.
Yeah, I mean, if they had this power, Luke could have healed his hand at the end of Empire. He could have healed Vader at the end of Return of the Jedi. But this kind of comes out of nowhere. Yeah, like Alan said, like she's a bit like a Jesus figure now.
Well, that's the thing. Apparently, it runs in the family then, because apparently Anakin is Jesus, because apparently his mother only conceived him through the midichlorians. So, whippy ki.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
So let's see what else. I mean,
the score.
Still got to give Ollie a chance to speak here, so I'll try to move on. But let's see. I mean, the things that I did enjoy about the movie. I mean, I still think it's a fun adventure, even though maybe it's ticking off all these boxes as it goes, and it's doing a whole lot of fan service as it goes. Although I can defend J.J. Abrams' decision to put in fan service by simply saying, well, I am a fan, so service me. I don't mind.
Yeah. Alan, sorry.
really,
what did you think of the soundtrack, the John Williams final score?
I liked it a lot. I mean, I mean, I've seen the film several times now. I mean, I've got the DVD as well, and although I still don't think it's the most memorable score he's done for a Star Wars movie, I mean, I still think it's a good score. I still tip my hat to the man that, I mean, he's now in his 80s and he's still writing film scores, and I'm grateful that he lived long enough to do the film score for the last Star Wars movie in the saga.
Yeah.
It's a good film score. Like I said, I don't think it's the most memorable score, but it is a good score.
Oh, by the way, I've heard that he's going to be back for Indiana Jones 5, so at least the music will be good in that film. But
yeah. I'm hoping that he's still alive to do it, because he's really up there now. I mean, he looks good for a man of his age. I don't see why he couldn't live well into his 90s or reach his 100th birthday, but he is in his 80s now. In fact,
he's like 87, I think. Yeah, or 88.
Jesus.
88 according to Wikipedia. 88, man. Woo! But still in good shape for a man of his age, so good for him. But yeah, I did like the score. I still thought the adventure overall was still fun. Again, another thing people complain about the movie was the whole quest thing, that they're going on a quest and they have to find this thing that, you know, that will take them to Palpatine's hidden lair and all that. I didn't mind the quest. I also appreciated the fact that good old C-3PO was given a lot to do. He's given a really good role, good supporting role in this one. Yeah. I mean, it goes without saying that 3PO, as well as R2-D2, that they will appear in every Star Wars movie in the saga, but it was very minor whatever 3PO got to do or say in episodes 7 and 8. But here, he's given...
Actually, Alan, I sorry to interrupt. I was going to say, I think the only film with C-3PO wasn't in was Solo: A Star Wars Story, if I'm not mistaken. But
yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. I mean, they even had a brief cameo in Rogue One, although it's a real, you know, blink and you miss it cameo, but it's there. But they don't appear Solo. But I did appreciate that 3PO was given a lot to do in Rise of Skywalker. You know, Anthony Daniels, good old Anthony Daniels, who plays 3PO, was given a lot to do in this story. And 3PO plays an important part. So I thought that was really good. I mean, let's give 3PO something substantial to do in this sequel trilogy before all is said and done. So I did appreciate that about Rise of Skywalker, that 3PO has a lot to do in this story. So hooray for Anthony Daniels, for his part in Episode 9. I also liked that they brought back Luke as a Force ghost, as we all know he would. I mean, of course they're going to bring him back as a Force ghost, and that you know, Luke lives on as a Force ghost, and the fact that he admitted to Rey that he was wrong. You know, his attitude that he had in The Last Jedi, that he was wrong. I love the fact that they threw in that little brief flashback scene where Luke is giving Leia her training, and you know, they're fighting each other. I mean, it's training fighting, you know, on I guess Endor or whatever, and I guess they use CGI on the two actors playing the Luke and Leia. Yeah. But I thought that flashback scene was really good. And
do you think sorry again? Do you think that scene when he's talking to Rey as a ghost, that reminded me of Return of the Jedi, when Obi-Wan talks to Luke and says, "Oh, you've got to confront him. You've got to restore balance to the galaxy." That kind of did feel very reminiscent of Return of the Jedi to me. But I did love the bit with the X-wing where he lifted the X-wing up, and the smug look on his face really did.
Yeah, that's a nice reference. That's a nice reference to Empire Strikes Back when Yoda lifted the X-wing out of the water. They did a nice homage there.
I had the same music as well.
By Skywalker. Yeah, that was great. Yeah.
Yep, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, no, it's a total flashback to that scene in Return of the Jedi with Luke and Obi-Wan, because I thought it gave Luke a sort of redemption, if you like. I mean, he was redeemed anyway. I mean, he came in at the end of The Last Jedi to help, even though he was using the Force to project himself. And then we saw him become one with the Force and disappear. So he redeemed himself anyway. But the fact that he came back as a Force ghost, we the audience are assured that, you know, he's very much alive as a spirit, you know, one with the Force, and that he came back to advise Rey, that he admitted that he was wrong, you know, in the previous chapter, and that and he encourages Rey to get out there and confront Palpatine. And yes, of course, I was going to mention the moment when he lifts the X-wing out of the water to give it to Rey so she can fly it and join the fight against Palpatine. That is such a great moment because, as we all know, Luke was not able to lift his X-wing out of the water in Empire Strikes Back. Yoda had to do that, but here he finally lifts it himself. So that's another redemption bit for Luke. And of course, we hear that classic music, John Williams music from Empire Strikes Back, when Luke lifts the X-wing out of the water, and of course that wonderful smile on Luke's face as he's lifting the X-wing out of the water, and it's a great moment. I mean, that is very, very moment, and great moment for Luke. Great moment for
the only
Mark
thing that
Hamill.
doesn't make sense to me is when Luke catches the lightsaber. I don't really get that because he's a ghost. I don't know. Like Rey's about to throw the lightsaber in the fire of the little ship she's burning or whatever, but he catches it and walks forward. I don't get how he catches it, but whatever. I
guess he used the Force. He used the Force to catch it. That's it. No other explanation. Again, throw in the towel, Ollie. Just got to throw in the towel. But yeah, no, that's a wonderful moment. That's definitely one of my favorite moments in the movie. The return of Lando, good old Billy D. Williams as Lando.
Woo!
It's great to see him there, although again he's not given as much to do as I would have liked. I mean, I understand now in his early 80s, although he looks good for a man of his early 80s, but I think they could have given him more dialogue. They could have given him more scenes. I still say that scene where he and Poe are having that heart-to-heart talk by Leia's bedside, I think was too short. I think that scene should have been a little longer.
Yeah. I mean, Alan, it kind of seemed to me that his appearance in this, it kind of felt like a bit of a glorified cameo because he didn't get much to do, but yeah. He was still good in it, though.
It was nice to have him back.
Kinda. It's nice to have him back there, and it's nice to know that they let somebody from the original cast survive to the end.
Yeah.
And didn't kill him off.
Yeah, I think Chewie and Lando, they're the only ones left, aren't they? Like, because the other three are dead.
Yeah, although Luke lives on as a Force ghost, and Leia, as we found out at the very end, lives on as a Force ghost. But
and you still got a C-3PO and R2-D2.
Oh yeah, but the droids don't really count, do they? I mean, like in terms of humans.
Yeah. Okay. And by the way, I also appreciated the return of Han Solo for that one cameo moment.
Yeah.
Before it comes back, that he's uncredited, and I think it also makes me feel better about his death in The Force Awakens. Now we're told in Rise of Skywalker that he just appears to Ben, formerly Kylo Ren. Ben, he appears to him as a memory, but that's a very, very vivid memory. So I'm convinced that really was. The way I interpret it is that really was Han Solo's spirit talking to him. I mean, he's obviously not a Force ghost. Han doesn't have any Force powers, but I think he really did appear to him in spirit, for that brief moment.
And it's the first time that Ben calls him Dad as well. He's never called him Dad until then. I liked that.
That's right. Because I think, again, it makes me feel better about Han Solo's death that even Han lives on, in spirit, even though he doesn't have any Force powers, but that he lives on in spirit. And I'm very glad that J.J. Abrams convinced Harrison Ford to come back. I mean, I'm sure he told him, it's only one day's worth of shooting. You won't have to work on it for very long, and it gives it gives the fans a way to see Han one last time, and maybe make them feel better about your death in The Force Awakens. So Harrison Ford said, "Okay, I'll do it, but just don't credit me. Don't spoil the surprise." And when he did appear on screen, for me, it was a total surprise. I had no idea that Harrison Ford was going to be in this movie. They kept that secret very, very well hidden.
They did,
which I appreciated. So to me, I personally believe, you may think differently, but I think that really was Han Solo in spirit, and that's how I interpret that scene. and I greatly appreciate Harrison Ford coming back to do that. So we get a little bit of closure with Han Solo, I think. So I appreciated that as well. Let's see.
The new character.
What else can? Yeah, regarding the new characters that they brought in, I mean, I like them. I mean, they're always going to be handicapped by the fact that these new characters only come in at the very end of the saga. But for their time that they were on screen, I liked them. I guess one of the biggest ones was Carrie Russell as Zori Bliss, who who knows Poe. I guess she's Wikipedia says an old acquaintance of Poe's from.
Yeah, I think she's an old flame, isn't she? She's like a spice runner, or I don't know what that is. I suppose it's like some kind of bounty hunter or trinket thief or something.
Yeah.
Well, she's not a spice girl.
No, you wish.
Yeah, but anyway, I mean, for what time she had in the movie, I mean, I liked her. I liked that really cool outfit and the helmet that they have decked out, and I also like the fact that we only ever get to see her eyes. That one scene when she lifts the visor and we only see her eyes. We don't see her full face. Although she's a very pretty lady herself, but I mean, just seeing her eyes. I mean, I like that. I kind of like that, and I liked her character. I thought that she was for her one appearance in this one movie. I mean, she appears in like 2 or 3 scenes, but I mean, for only appearing in this one movie, for a Star Wars character that only comes in at the very end of the Skywalker saga, I thought she was good. I thought she was appealing. I liked her. I liked the scene where she and Poe are having the heart-to-heart talk, I guess, on the roof. And I thought Carrie Russell was quite appealing in the role. And again, I liked the outfit they put her in. I liked the helmet that they gave her. I liked that we only see her eyes. And I thought she was quite good. So I appreciated her inclusion in the movie. I also liked Naomi Aki as Jannah, former stormtrooper of the First Order. She and Finn strike up a friendship, and she joins the fight at the end. I liked her. Again, this is a Star Wars character that only appears at the very end of the saga, but I liked her as well. I thought she was very appealing. I thought she and Finn made a good pair. I'm surprised she and Finn didn't hook up at the end. You'd think they would have, but they didn't. but she was quite good. Again, for her limited time in this one movie, I liked her as well. Let's see, Richard E. Grant as General Pride. I mean, Richard E. Grant, he's a great actor, but to me, he just kind of came across like just another bad general who says he used to work with Vader back in the day.
Yeah. Well, actually, point. Where was he then? Like, if he used to work with Vader, where was he in the first 2 movies of this trilogy? Like, why are they bringing him in now? Like, why isn't Hux in command again? Like, I don't understand that. It seems a bit pointless.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, General Pride says he worked with Vader. Well, as you say, how come we never saw him before then? If he worked with Vader in the past, so they kind of just shoehorned his character in. I mean, I like
a great actor anyway, Richard E. Grant. He's very stoic in his face, Yeah,
no, I mean he is indeed very, very. I mean he's an excellent actor. I've definitely seen him. I think in a few other things in the past. Might have seen him on TV and something. Might have seen him in a couple of other films. I mean, I know the name. I mean, he's definitely a very talented actor. But it just seems like his general character was just kind of shoehorned in. Again,
and then he died at the end.
Yeah. I mean, he's a general who supposedly worked with Vader back in the day, but we've never seen him before, so that was kind of weird.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie to you. I actually found his death to be quite funny when he runs forward with that panicked look on his face, and then the base blows up, or the Star Destroyer blows up, and then he flies out the window.
That was funny. I mean, he was good for what he had, but I don't think it was much of a character.
Yeah, he was unnecessary.
Yeah, but okay, it's nice to see him there. He's a good actor, Richard E. Grant, and I think he fulfilled a dream of his to appear in a Star Wars movie. So well done, Richard E. Grant. All things considered, just not the greatest Star Wars character, but okay, nice to see him in there for his limited screen time that he's got. I think we're in agreement that Kelly Marie Tran as Rose, she's totally wasted in this movie, and she was supposed to have more scenes in this film, but they were cut. and of course her hinted at romance with Finn in The Last Jedi goes nowhere here. They're just friends.
Yeah.
Even that scene.
It's disappointing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there should have been more dialogue between the two of them just before Finn goes off in the Falcon with Rey and company. There should have been more. There should have been more dialogue between Rose and Finn. I would have liked something better than just Finn quickly putting his hand on Rose's shoulder and then walking off. I mean, I would have liked.
You never got the sense that they were actually in love. Like, you just thought they were friends. I never got the sense that Finn actually was in love with Rose. I just kind of thought she was attracted to him. So they should have just scrapped the kiss in The Last Jedi entirely and just had them just be friends, because they could have all of this disappointment.
Yeah. You'll notice that a lot of characters in this movie we thought in previous films they were going to become couples, but they just wind up putting each other in the friend zone. There's a lot of friend zone.
Fucking Snoke and Palpatine will be together.
I mean, I personally I personally just find it disappointing, like Alan was saying, like if you're going to set up these romances and then not do anything with it, like Rey possibly being with Finn and then Finn possibly being with Rose, it's like, well, then what's the point of having these suggested romances in the first place? But yeah,
I mean, the only reason I can think of is that perhaps they were worried it might have turned out like Attack of the Clones. I mean, well, not to cast aspersions, but we all know what the romance was like in Attack of the Clones. I mean, not good.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I liked her as Rose, even though this is another character that comes in towards the end of the saga. But I mean, I thought she was very good in The Last Jedi, even if she's not the greatest Star Wars character. I think she's a good Star Wars character, and I like Kelly Marie Tran in the part. But she was totally wasted in Rise of Skywalker, and she was supposed to have more scenes, and they cut those scenes. I would have liked to have seen more dialogue between her and Finn in that one scene together. Maybe more dialogue. Maybe they could hug. Maybe Finn could say to Rose, "Thank you, Rose, for saving my life," or "Thank you, Rose, for being a good friend, for being such a good friend," something like that. And I think that would have been more satisfying than what we got in that scene. Because this is another example where I thought J.J. Abrams was trying to rush things a little too quickly and didn't need to be rushed. Let's see. There's a lot of great action in this movie. The visual effects are great. I still enjoy, the whole slam bang action adventure of the whole movie. Even though, we've been talking about some of the stuff in the movie that people can criticize, but I still think the overall adventure is fun. I do like how. I want to mention this before I turn the mic over to Ollie, but I mean, I did like how Kylo Ren redeemed himself and turned into Ben at the end, that he comes in and helps Rey at the end. I did think it was a neat twist that I did like Rey's final stance against Palpatine, where she's holding both of the sabers in a cross and finally obliterates Palpatine before our very eyes, so there's no doubt this time that Palpatine is dead.
Well, you never know. They could bring him back again.
They might, but I think it's safe to say they won't. Probably safe to say they won't. And I like that. And I thought it was an interesting twist that after she uses up all that energy, she dies. Yeah, but then Ben comes. He comes and he does the exact same thing to Rey that Rey did to the snake. He uses that Jesus-like power to bring her back. Although, by doing that, he himself dies. But just before he dies, he and Rey actually snog for a bit. I know a lot of fans hate that kiss. I don't mind the kiss, but it might have been better, since obviously there's no way these two are going to run off and get married or something like that. Maybe it would have been better just to have them hug before Ben died. Just have a nice, loving hug. Don't kiss, but just hug, and then Ben can die peacefully with the hug. Maybe it wasn't necessary to have a kiss. I don't mind it. I really don't mind it, but I can understand how other fans would be pissed off about that. But especially since again, Rey and Ben cannot be together as a couple. That's not going to happen. But I didn't mind the kiss, but it might have been better for them just to hug and leave it at that before Ben dies. But by doing that act, by becoming Ben Solo again, and by saving Rey, I like that Ben redeemed himself, and I like that when he died, he disappears, and then his mother Leia, the body of Leia disappears, so they are now one with the Force as well. So I like that they found a way for Ben Solo to redeem himself. And again, when we saw Han Solo appear to his son, it's as if Han was forgiving his son for killing him, because he knows that it wasn't really Ben who killed him, it was Kylo Ren, and Kylo is now dead and gone, and his son is now Ben Solo again. So it's almost as if Han was saying to Ben, I forgive you. So that was another thing I appreciate about bringing Han back for that scene. So it was nice, yeah, sure. It's nice that Ben was actually able to redeem himself in the end. That was nice. That was a nice touch. So I mean, there's a whole bunch of other things I could say about Rise of Skywalker, but I really need to turn the mic over to Ollie. Let Ollie have a chance to talk about it. But I'll just say, I'll just say, I mean, it's pretty obvious that the Rise of Skywalker has got a whole bunch of things in it that you can question. There's a whole bunch of things that can be criticized. But through all of that, I still appreciated, at the very least, that J.J. Abrams did his absolute very best to give the fans, even though he didn't satisfy all of them, he tried very hard to give the fans, a final chapter in the saga that would be entertaining, that would have that old Star Wars spirit in it, there would be, a really entertaining, satisfying conclusion to the saga. He was probably not going to satisfy any of the fans, no matter what decisions he made. But I think, despite all of the illogical stuff that's happening all over the film, I think the one thing that comes through is just the sense of fun. That this is obviously a work of fiction. You can criticize all the illogical things all you want, but this is a fictional world, fictional character. We accepted right from the very first Star Wars film that this is all fantasy, and therefore fantastical, unrealistic things happen all throughout these movies. It's just a question of how much of it you can go along with and how much of it you can't go along with. I mean, obviously, the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, I just don't think that there's enough good stuff there. That's why I can't go along with those two movies, to make a long story short. And we've already done a hangout about those movies, and I've already reviewed the movies on my channel. You've reviewed the films on your channel, for people to have, if you want to delve deeper into our thoughts of Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones.
And also, anyway, it's worthy to note that all three of us have actually performed that god-awful monologue from Attack of the Clones by the fireplace.
Yes, we've all performed it. That god-awful monologue. That apparently, I guess George Lucas was reading romance novels, and he tried to put a whole bunch of romance novel shit in that monologue.
50 Shades of Lightsaber. Yeah.
That's my line.
That kind of thing. Yeah. But like I said, despite all the stuff in Rise of Skywalker that you can question, I still think, despite all of that, I am willing, to throw in the towel and let the child in me have a good time. Which I think is all that J.J. Abrams was trying to do, was just trying to entertain and make a Star Wars movie that would appeal to somebody in the fan base.
Yeah.
And,
well, I mean, at the very least, himself.
Yeah. To do something that would be satisfactory to at least some of the fans, even if he couldn't please all of the fans. And I still think the overall movie is fun. The kid in me had a great time watching it. And, I like these characters, despite some of the highly illogical things that happen to them. And all of that. I mean, I think that's another one of the reasons why I like these movies, is that I still find the characters very likable, very, very appealing. I think
that being said, it is time to put the Skywalkers to bed now. I think after 3 trilogies, it is time to wrap it up.
Well, yes, I'm getting to that. Yes.
Oh, sorry.
But I mean, no, that's all right. That's all right. But yes, I mean, I like everybody in the cast. I like the characters. Um, it can always be argued that maybe the Star Wars Skywalker saga should have ended with Return of the Jedi, but okay, they made the decision to extend the story for 3 more movies and do basically, Star Wars: The Next Generation, so to speak, because that's basically what the sequel trilogy is: Star Wars: The Next Generation. But I thought it worked, even if they didn't have a roadmap for this particular trilogy. I agree with what others have said, is that they really only had The Force Awakens mapped out in advance, and it's like they basically made up The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker as they went. It might have been a better idea for them to have the entire trilogy mapped out from the beginning, although obviously when Carrie Fisher died, the stuff with Leia was still going to have to be altered somewhat. But be that as it may, I still think the overall trilogy is still great fun and still has that old Star Wars magic in it. I can't speak for all of the fans. I can only speak for myself, but I can only say that I enjoyed the sequel trilogy overall, and I enjoyed The Rise of Skywalker. Even though there's a lot of fantastical things in it that you can question, but I think the sense of fun is still there. I still think all of these characters are very appealing. I still think the cast are very appealing. I still got the impression that I was taken off to a galaxy far, far away, and and I enjoyed hanging around this galaxy and hanging around these characters. And I thought that the final chapter in the saga was, despite whatever criticisms you can throw at it, I still think that the movie at its core is still a lot of fun and still a lot of enjoyable. And I enjoyed these characters. And who doesn't like a happy ending, right?
Yeah.
The happy ending that you want.
Oh yeah, and I love that scene at the end when she buries the lightsabers and she gets a yellow lightsaber, and then she says,
Yes.
"I'm Rey Skywalker" on Tatooine. So that was a nice way to kind of bring it full circle, wasn't it?
Oh, thank you, Ellie, for bringing that up. Yes, thank you. This will be the last thing I mention. Yeah, I really liked that last scene where she goes to the place where it all started. Luke's old home on Tatooine, which I assume she's going to fix it up and live there herself. Now that we saw that she had Luke and Leia's blessing to call herself a Skywalker, with that wonderful moment where we see the Force ghosts of Luke and Leia looking at her and smiling at her in approval, and of course Rey utters the very last line where she says to the woman passing by, "My name is Rey Skywalker." And
liar, you're Palpatine. Well,
again, I mean, I know other Star Wars fans hated that last line. The video is on YouTube. She says the line, "My name is Rey Skywalker." Oh God, fuck this, fuck Star Wars. I hate Star Wars. But I really like that. I mean, the fact that we see quite plainly that Luke and Leia, as Force ghosts, that they totally approve of Rey being a Skywalker. I mean, okay, she was born a Palpatine, but she can be a Skywalker. She's worthy of the name Skywalker,
and she can carry that forward.
Of the name Skywalker, worthy of it.
And exactly, because Ben was the last living Skywalker, Ben Solo, but then he died. So she is kind of inheriting the name and taking it forward. And even though she's not bound by blood, it's still nice to know that she is a part of their family. And I like that.
Yeah.
It proves that you don't have to be blood related to them to be a Skywalker. And she's more than proved herself, I think. And she's certainly nothing like her grandfather.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, she's been adopted into the Skywalker family, and I think she's totally worthy of being adopted. I mean, she's proven it. She's proven it beyond the shadow of a doubt, as far as I'm concerned. And yes, you're absolutely right. I love the scene where she respectfully and lovingly buries the lightsabers of Luke and Leia in the sand there, and with the utmost respect. And then she flicks on her own lightsaber, and it's yellow or gold. That was beautiful. And then that old lady passes by and asks, who she is, and Rey is a little bit reluctant to say her full name, but then she sees the ghosts of Luke and Leia, looking at her and smiling at her as if to say, yeah, we approve of you. Go ahead, say you're a Skywalker. We approve. And she says the last line, "My name is Rey Skywalker," and then that final shot of her looking into the Tatooine sun, with good old little BB-8 by her side, and that's it. And I really loved that. I thought that was a wonderful ending for me. Can't speak for the whole fan base, but speaking for me, I thought that was a wonderful ending to the movie and a wonderful ending to the saga. So to wrap it all up, maybe I was a little too generous in my original review of Rise of Skywalker when I gave it 3.5 out of 4 stars. I think now, taking all the criticism into account, but still finding the movie very enjoyable, I would probably just drop it down a little bit to 3 out of 4 stars, which means I still like it a lot. I still think it's a very good,
And out
highly
of 10,
Star
what
Wars
would that
movie.
be?
On a scale of 1 to 10, let's see. I gave Force Awakens a 9 out of 10, and I stand by that. Last Jedi, I gave a 8 out of 10, and despite the criticism that movie gets, I stand by my rating of 8 out of 10. I would probably put this movie just slightly above Last Jedi, slightly above it, because it's the last one, and I think it's a fun wrap up to the series. But I would probably give it the same rating of Last Jedi of 8 out of 10, or 3 out of 4 stars in the personal rating I give. So I've heard all the criticisms, and I understand some of those criticisms, but I still think the movie is still a lot of fun. I like all the characters. I still like the overall story and the direction that J.J. Abrams took this final chapter in the Skywalker saga. And again, I know I mentioned the phrase "the child in me," but I have to say one more time, the child in me had a great time watching it. And I still thoroughly enjoy this movie, and I don't have any problems with watching it many more times in the years to come. And that's the same thing I can say for most of the Star Wars movies, And I think this is a very good, more than satisfying wrap up to the Skywalker saga, despite whatever criticisms gets lobbied at this movie. I think it's still fun. I'm still a satisfied Star Wars fan. I'm very happy with it. So the last word for me is I still like The Rise of Skywalker a lot. Yeah, thumbs up for me, and I'll give The Rise of Skywalker. I'll give The Rise of Skywalker a 8 out of 10.
Ooh.
Okay.
Before Ollie moves, just before Ollie moves on, I'd like to mention a couple of scenes I forgot to mention that I'll jog remember. It'll be very quick, and that Ollie says peace on this film. Yeah, I like the scene at the end as well with Rey, where she says, "I'm Rey Skywalker." I thought that was good, although I would have kind of liked it maybe if she died at the end. I think that would have been a more ballsy move, but I still, yeah, it'd been. I thought it'd be risky if they did that, like have her kill Kylo
I mean, not in
Ren.
the same way as Snoke. God, no.
Yeah. No, I think it would have been better for me if she killed mortally wound Kylo Ren and just like he died there, because instead of using his made up force powers to heal him, and then the ending would have been she used all her power to defeat Sidious, but she died at the end. That would have been better than me for just a typical happy Star Wars ending. But I did like that ending where she said, "I'm Rey Skywalker." And also, I forgot to mention as well, I didn't like the fact that Kylo Ren reassembled his helmet. I like the fact in The Last Jedi that he smashed it up. It was like him letting go of the Vader image, like, when Snoke said to him, "Oh, you're just, a shadow of your father."
It was probably unnecessary of him to rebuild his helmet. I agree.
I mean, you could still see what the singe marks where they reforged it anyway. So, yeah. I suppose there wasn't a lot of point. He doesn't really wear it that much anyway in this film.
Yeah.
And actually, sorry, one thing you guys didn't mention was the Knights of Ren. They were barely featured. When they were just basically there as like guards or henchmen. And then Kylo fought his own men at the end.
Yeah, it would have been nice a little bit more of them. Maybe that's something else that Abrams kind of glossed over, but that's okay. That's okay. It doesn't wreck the movie for me. I
No,
still
no,
like it.
Yeah. And there was that. And there was also. I also think it would have been nice. I mean, I know they had Yoda, the Force Ghost Yoda, appear briefly in Last Jedi. I think it would have been nice if he had appeared again with Luke as a Force Ghost. That would have been nice. Sort of end the saga off. But I was gonna say, yeah, like I said, I think it was a bit unnecessary to bring back his helmet because I like the fact that he sort of let go of living in the shadow of Vader in the Last Jedi when he smashed up the helmet, and then for him to reassemble it, it was kind of like retconning a little bit the Last Jedi. I just kind of thought, well, like, there's no point in him reassembling that because, I mean, I like the fact that he destroyed it in the Last Jedi. It was like he was letting go because Snoke was saying, "Oh, you're trying to be like your grandfather." But yeah, yeah, and I mean that's pretty much all I have to say, really. I mean, I thought it was a good film, but yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna play my piece, but before I do, as this is the last of the trilogy, I just want to show off my BB-8. Yay!
Oh, it's
Oh,
nice.
very cool. That's great.
He talks as well. I mean, I don't know. You probably can't hear him.
Oh, wow. Can
Yeah.
I show you my BB-8? Can I show you?
Yeah,
mine?
go on then. Why not? Let's compare.
He's nearby. I haven't turned him on in a while, but I have him. Hold on.
Mine's more of a sort of soft toy plush thing. I got this guy when The Force Awakens came out. Whoa! Oh, mine's bigger than yours.
Yeah, yours is bigger, and yours is plush. This is the robotic one. He really does roll around. Yeah.
I don't have a BB-8.
Yeah. So there you go. So there's my BB-8, but yours is cute too, Ollie.
Oh, thank you. Yours too.
Yeah.
Oh, he is cute, isn't he?
Go.
Right. Well, okay. On with the show. The Rise of Skywalker. Well, okay. There was a lot riding on this movie, and did it deliver? The answer is yes and no. It's a weird one. Yeah, it's a weird one. I mean, I am not gonna argue with people that have issues with The Last Jedi, although I do feel the film has been unfairly criticized. I think that The Last Jedi is a lot better than people give it credit for, and I can see some of the issues. Okay, fair enough. I get some of the problems, even though I don't agree. I will respect people's judgment, but I do think people have gone too far in slamming that movie. It really doesn't deserve to be hated. I mean, Christ Almighty. But I mean, as
the
far
fact that the critics rate Phantom Menace higher than Rise of Skywalker just baffles me. But that's same with fans.
Bullshit. That's total bullshit.
Yeah. So critics, you're telling me that you'd rather watch Jar Jar Binks than watch anything in The Last Jedi? Wow. Okay. Right. Well,
you mean the Rise of Skywalker?
No. Well, I was talking about The Last Jedi briefly, actually, but yeah.
To the critics.
Yeah, screw the critics. But in regards to this particular trilogy, the sequel trilogy, I've enjoyed it up to this point. I mean, obviously, before I'd seen The Rise of Skywalker, I enjoyed The Force Awakens. It was good. It was a nice return to form, and maybe they did play it safe, but there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I did criticize it for being too similar to Episode 4, but it didn't affect my enjoyment of the movie. It was a good film. The Last Jedi, I really enjoyed, despite a lot of people's criticisms of it. I could see that they were basically changing the entire story, flipping it in all different directions. But I thought that was good. It was unexpected. As for The Rise of Skywalker, this one was probably going to be the hardest one to make because it had to follow The Last Jedi, which was so controversial and so divisive among the fandom. I mean, the critics liked The Last Jedi, but the fans were like 50-50 split on it. Most people I've talked to seem to dislike it. But as far as The Rise of Skywalker is concerned, it's kind of got the same reaction. It's very divisive. Although this time, I think when I first saw the reviews, it seemed as though the critics hated it, but the fans were very mixed on it. I'm kind of mixed on it.
Actually,
yes, go on.
Sorry to interrupt. actually funny you should say that. Like you were saying, like the critics loved Last Jedi, but the audience were very split on it. It seems like with Rise of Skywalker that the critics don't really like it, don't care for it, but the audience likes it a lot more. I think the audience appreciation scores a lot higher on Rotten Tomatoes for Rise of Skywalker. But yeah, so it's another divisive one amongst critics and fans. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems that The Force Awakens is the one that's been received the best across both forums, but even then, it's not necessarily received perfect reviews. But as far as The Rise of Skywalker is concerned, I think that it's a mixed bag. I'm kind of with Alan. I'm more with Alan on this one. I like the movie. It's fun. I won't say it's a perfect movie, but I enjoyed it. I mean, considering it had to follow The Last Jedi, I was actually quite happy with what Abrams did. He didn't get it perfect. He didn't get it completely right, but he got it right enough. And he created a pretty fun, pretty epic, pretty entertaining Star Wars movie. Even though a lot of the fans, we've already spoken about this. You can't please the fans. It's whatever. But I mean, he tried his best, and I do appreciate that. Yeah, there may be some things that are illogical by this point. Certain laws within the franchise, like the Force and everything, and also the ending of Return of the Jedi has kind of been squandered a bit. I can't deny, and that does make me a little sad. But I am prepared to overlook that a little bit for the sake of the movie being fun. Like Alan, I'm prepared to throw in the towel with that. And I never thought I'd say that because I do love Return of the Jedi. Sorry.
No, I was just agreeing with you. I just think, it does sort of cheapen Vader's sacrifice a bit at the end. The fact that, you thought he killed the Emperor, and then all of a sudden the Emperor's back again just to kill him off again. But yeah.
Well, and regarding the Emperor, well, look, let's be honest. It's no secret that Ian McDiarmid is terrific in this role, and he will always be the only person to play this role. And it was lovely to see him again. It really was nice to see him again. Don't get me wrong, but in terms of the movie, it doesn't really make sense how he survived. Even though there have been theories about him surviving, like cloning himself or whatever, because apparently he cloned Snoke, which came out of nowhere. But I'm prepared to accept that because obviously they killed Snoke in The Last Jedi. So what else could they do really? But whatever. I chose to kind of just forget about all of that when I was watching him because Ian McDiarmid is so damn entertaining that it really doesn't matter by this point. Just enjoy the movie for what it is. Forget it as a Star Wars movie. Kind of just enjoy it as a movie, and that's kind of how I appreciate The Rise of Skywalker. Yes, bringing back the Emperor was always going to be a risky move, but I think because of Snoke's death in The Last Jedi, Abrams didn't have many options. I mean, I agree with Alan. I mean, potentially you could have brought back Snoke. I mean, because we see that tank of him, the tank of Snoke's, like all the different clones. So we could have seen the real Snoke. But then again, Snoke was a very underdeveloped character, extremely underdeveloped character in the first two films of the trilogy. So I don't even think it would have been worth. Sorry, go on.
Someone put. Sorry to interrupt. Someone even said like he's basically a wannabe emperor. I'm sorry to interrupt, buddy.
No, it's fine. Don't worry. I guess so. I can see that. I mean, he's just another Sith. He just looks like he looks like the Silence from Doctor Who. He's just a random alien. His design is very bland and
or the trickster. Yeah.
Yeah. What trickster? What you want about?
Have you seen the Sarah Jane Adventures? There's a character called the Trickster, and he kind of looks like Snoke. But yeah. Well, I disagree. I think he looks more like the Silence, but whatever. I mean, the point is, Snoke was a very bland character anyway. So I'm not disappointed that they didn't use the clones of him in the film that much. I suppose the only thing they could do is really reference him because he is kind of he was a bit of a pointless character, but. Whatever. I was happy to accept Palpatine back in the film, and I kind of suspected that the film would end with his official demise. But yeah, I do think that ending in Return of the Jedi is slightly ruined, but whatever. And it is a bit unbelievable how that massive chunk of the Death Star survived when we clearly saw it blow up at the end of Return of the Jedi. It very clearly blows up. It doesn't look like anything fell down to Endor, but I mean, apparently the planet
is Endor, where they go to, where there's the big sea and there's the cliffs where the Death Star is in the water. Apparently, that is Endor, according to Kathleen Kennedy. But
I was going to ask you a question.
yeah,
like, is Endor now like? Is that planet now desolated or something? Because I didn't see any Ewoks, and it just looked like a barren planet, like no forest or anything there anymore. Like, I mean,
I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming it's just a different part of Endor, but I don't know. I threw in the towel, to be honest, with this movie. But yeah, I didn't think it was Endor at first because of the look of it. Like you say, it's there's no trees and there's no Ewoks, but I thought whatever. If it is Endor, I guess I'll have to accept it as Endor because physically there's no other way it could be possible for the Death Star to have fallen anywhere else because it was right above Endor in Return of the Jedi. But whatever. The characters are good. I like Rey. Daisy Ridley is very good in the movie. This I would say probably this might be her best performance, although I do like her in all three movies. I can't really decide actually which is my favorite performance. Potentially this or The Last Jedi. I think she's very good in both. And I mean, yes, you could argue that the kiss with Kylo Ren does kind of come out of nowhere. I mean, it makes sense when you think about it. Going back to The Last Jedi, when they have that connection, I suppose they kind of developed maybe some deep feelings, but it isn't really clear in The Last Jedi what
it kind of comes across as a bit forced, if you know what I mean. Like, it kind of comes out of nowhere, like this love story. But yeah,
I guess so. I guess so. I don't really know how to justify it, but I didn't mind the kiss. The kiss didn't like bother me or anything, but it was kind of sweet. I mean, you know, when she calls him Ben and they have that moment and they smile at each other. And it's the first time and only time he smiles in the entire trilogy. So that was nice. And he gave his life in sacrifice to her. So that was nice. I know what you were saying, Jack, about her possibly dying. And yeah, maybe that would have changed the dynamic of the ending, but it's Star Wars. I don't think they would have ended on a downer with it being Star Wars because of the younger audiences. I think the younger audiences prefer a happier ending. But I do get what you mean. It is kind of similar to other endings in the trilogy. I mean, well, if you think about it, Revenge of the Sith ends on a downer. That's the one Star Wars movie, and The Empire Strikes Back. I think those two are the only two that end on a particular downer. So
Rogue One does as well. All the characters are killed in that. Rogue One.
Yes, in Rogue One as well.
Yeah.
I never really thought that The Rise of Skywalker would end on a down note. I always kind of thought it would end in some way. I mean, there might have been loss, but perhaps it would have been interesting to kill off Rey. But I'm honestly okay with her surviving. It really is fine to me. But I see your point, Jack. I see your point. Regarding Poe, you guys haven't really mentioned Poe very much, but I think Poe's pretty good in this film. He got a lot to do in The Last Jedi. And I like him here. He's good. And it's nice that Poe gets more involved with the team. And it's actually nice that The Rise of Skywalker has all the main characters together. Because in the previous movie, everybody was separated on the different various quests.
Ollie.
Sorry?
Ollie. Yeah, you're right. I didn't mention Poe that much. I'll just say briefly that I like Poe. I mean, I think he's a likable character. I thought Jason Isaac is very appealing in the part. And yeah, I'm sorry I didn't mention him properly in my review of Rise of Skywalker. But yeah, for the record, I like Poe. He's a likable character, and I like him.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to apologize. That's fine.
No, unless for my sort of 2 cents, and then I'll go back to Aldi here in just a sec. But I mean, personally, I didn't think he did that much in this film. I think maybe this is the least amount he's done in the trilogy. From what I remember.
I mean, The Force Awakens, he's barely in that one. They tease you with his death, and then he comes back like an hour later. But you know, it's your opinion, fair enough. But I think Force Awakens is his most least amount of screen time.
Actually, you're probably right. Actually, I haven't seen this in a while, but I probably agree with that. But as for Finn, I don't know. I think maybe this was his weakest performance. He just didn't really get to do a lot, if I can remember clearly. And that's one thing I will say is that Finn kind of seems a bit pointless in this film. But Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna talk about Finn in a minute. But as for Poe, I enjoyed him. You know, he was never my favorite character of this trilogy. I mean, when The Force Awakens came out, I was kind of wondering why are people hyping him up so much. He's honestly not that. He's not that great. I mean, I kind of thought he was very similar to Han Solo, but I like Poe. I think he's charming, and I liked him in The Last Jedi, and I like him as well in The Rise of Skywalker. And again, it is nice to see all those characters, the three of them together. We get a nice dynamic between Rey, Poe, and Finn, which I think was lacking in the first two movies because they were all separated. I mean, obviously Finn and Poe met in The Force Awakens, but Rey didn't meet Poe until the end of The Last Jedi. So, yeah, this is the first time we really get to see them together. So, yeah, that was nice. But I suppose Finn, yeah, maybe he was a little underutilized in this one. But I didn't mind. I mean, I still thought he had more to do than some of the other characters. But, yeah, perhaps he doesn't have any sort of major character journey and stuff. I mean, there are parts of the film where they focus on Finn and his connection to the Force, like when he's talking to, I think Jannah, I think that's her name. They're talking about the Force, and he's like, "Oh, the Force brought me to Rey and you know, and Poe," and he starts to believe in the Force. I mean, that was the only kind of character development he got. He was just kind of along for the ride for the rest of it. I don't like his haircut. I think his haircut should have stayed the same to how it was in the first two films, but whatever. I still think John Boyega's a great actor, and he's giving it his all, and he still hasn't lost his American accent, which really works for the character. But yeah, he doesn't do much in the grand scheme of the story. The new characters for me were completely pointless, with the exception of probably Zori Bliss. She was okay, but even then, she wasn't in it very much. I like.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I like Kerry Russell as an actress, but her character was sort of wasted. Same with Jannah. I don't get the point of Jannah. I mean, she's basically female Finn. That's basically what she is. She's a female stormtrooper who defected from the First Order and is on the run. Basically, that's it. She's just thrown into the film for no reason. I don't honestly know why she's in it. If the film didn't have her in it, it would be no different. So, yeah, again, the actress is fine. You know, she's okay. She's fine. But the character adds nothing to the story. Same with General Pride. Richard E. Grant has never been one of my favorite actors. I mean, he's okay. He's fine. But in this movie, I don't get his character, General Pride. Like, where was he in the first two films? If he was like this general who'd worked with Vader and stuff, where was he? Like, he was never made a major character. They just literally wrote him in, and they gave Hux less to do, which I found really weird. Like, Donald Gleason's Hux. Yeah.
No, I was going to say, sorry to interrupt. Richard E. Grant, like you said, like he said he worked for Vader and all that. Where was he in the original trilogy? I mean, they had the perfect opportunity if they were going to introduce him, like introduce him in Rogue One, like, you know, a brief scene with Vader. That would have made sense. But like you said, he just kind of comes out of nowhere and he's kind of pointless. But yeah,
yeah. And as I say, yeah, his death scene made me laugh when he was running forward with that scared look on his face, with the Star Destroyer blowing up, and then his body just, like, you see it fly out of the front window, which I think is quite funny after the explosion. But yeah, he's pointless in the grand scheme of things. So the new characters, I mean, I know they're coming in at the very end of the saga, but they're utterly wasted. There is no need for them. They don't add much to the story.
I completely agree. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Don't get me wrong, it is nice to see Rey going back on the actual Death Star and seeing the ruined Death Star in the old throne room. It was nice to see that. The wreckage of that. It was cool. But yeah, I mean, again, I'll have to throw in the towel with the sort of logistics of that. I quite like the plot surrounding the Wayfinders. I thought that was interesting, and seeing the Sith planet Exegol was cool. Although it's a very dark looking planet, there's not much vibrance to it. It's very dark, and there's just lightning all the time. Well, that's probably because of Palpatine, but yeah, when I love the opening scene when Kylo Ren goes to see Palpatine, and he discovers that basically Palpatine has been pulling the strings the whole time, and he's been messing with his head, and he's cloned Snoke, and he's done all this bad shit, and now and then he tells him who Rey is. Obviously, I mean, in terms of the revelation of Rey being his granddaughter, I thought it was fine. I actually didn't expect it, and I was surprised. I thought we were going to find out she was Luke's daughter or Han and Leia's, but no, she was a Palpatine. I thought, okay, that was an interesting angle, and I suppose I should have seen it coming when she electrocuted that ship or whatever it was, which she thought Chewie was on, but obviously that I can't believe they teased us with Chewie's death. Damn. But yeah, no, I liked the revelation, and again, the ending was good. The fact that even though she was a blood relative of Palpatine, she was accepted into the Skywalker family, and she was carrying the name on from now on, which made sense, and that was nice. That was very nice. I loved the scene with Luke when he came back as a Force ghost, and that scene with Rey as well. And again, as you said, when the X-wing was lifted out of the river, that was a lovely callback to Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, and the look on Luke's face was great. That made me smile. I love the flashback as well with Luke and Leia when they're training. That was really good. Also, Carrie Fisher. Obviously, it's very sad to know that she passed away before they can make this film, but very cleverly, Abrams and co. Used footage from The Force Awakens that they hadn't used in the movie, and they managed to write around it for this one, and they managed to somehow shape a performance out of it. So Carrie Fisher, I'm sure she'd be proud if she could see it. But yeah, it's a real lovely performance from what we can see. She's not in it that much, and obviously they do kill her off, which I guess was kind of expected, really. And I thought her death scene was very well done. It was very moving, very sad. I suppose I agree about the bit with Poe. Maybe that could have been done a bit longer. But the actual scene was very sad when they're all gathered around, and then when Chewie and Finn and Poe and Rey find out, that was sad. That was very sad. And yeah, whatnot. And also the return of Lando. Yes, Lando coming back. I love Lando. I loved it when he said, "Give Leia my love." I thought that was a lovely line. It was a nice callback to The Empire Strikes Back. But yeah, I suppose
he's
Lando,
still that old sleazeball.
yeah,
Yeah.
he is. Bill D. But yes, he could have had a bit more to do maybe in the film, but at least he got to fly the Falcon 1 last time, so I'm happy with that. I'm at least happy that he got to do that. That was brilliant. But it was nice to have him back, and it was nice that they didn't kill him off as well. Thank God. If they're just going to kill off all the original cast, then there would be no point watching. The action scenes are good. I like this the chase in the desert. I'm getting a bit sick of the desert planets, but we've already talked about that. The actual speeder chase is good, or whatever it is. The final battle is gargantuan, and it's like a huge battle. It's like the biggest battle we've ever seen in Star Wars. It's like it's the final order or something versus the very few resistance people that are left, and then Lando brings in the whole fleet. I mean, that was awesome. It's everything you expect from a Star Wars battle. So that's great. Rose is again wasted. I don't really. I mean, Rose. I mean, it's such a shame. Kelly Marie Tran is a good actress, and I know they filmed more scenes with Rose, but apparently, according to J.J. Abrams, they quote unquote did not work with the film, which is a real shame. Rose could have gone on the adventure with them. I mean, why not? You know, why couldn't Rose have gone to find the Wayfinder with them if you wanted to give her a bit more to do? I mean, maybe she wouldn't have fit the dynamic with the other three, but you know, if you were going to make her Finn's love interest, then why not? She's only in about 3 scenes of the movie, and she barely does anything. She has the odd line, but yeah, I feel sorry for Kelly Marie Tran. It feels like she's kind of like a one movie character. I mean, either I would have said give her more to do, or just say to us that she died at the end of The Last Jedi, because at the end of The Last Jedi, she's on the Falcon, Finn is comforting her, or he's sitting next to her when she's unconscious. So they could have killed off Rose in The Last Jedi. That would have been dramatic, but whatever. There might have been some backlash if they did that because of her heritage, should we say? She's of Asian heritage, but yeah, no, it's a fun movie. John Williams' score is also very good. I mean, it's not his best score ever, but it's good, and it might be the best score of the sequel trilogy. I don't know. I mean, the sequel trilogy score is good, although you can hear that John Williams is kind of reusing a lot of old themes. He's just running out of ideas, but he's an old man now, and
I hate to say, I hate to say, but the soundtrack for the sequel trilogy is a little bit forgettable. But yeah,
perhaps it is. I mean, they might be some of the weakest scores for the Star Wars movies, but that's not really too much of a problem for me. They're still listenable, and they work for the movies, for the respective movies that they're made for. But yeah, Williams, I think, has definitely exhausted himself with Star Wars. I think, I mean, I know he's going to be doing Indiana Jones 5 and maybe one or two other things, but he really has earned his retirement. I mean, the man has done so much for the film industry. I think he has earned his rests, but I do appreciate his final contribution to Star Wars. So thank you, John. Thank you very much. It's great to listen to Star Wars once again. And yeah, I do like the final confrontation with the Emperor. That's really good. I mean, his throne actually looks like the throne from Game of Thrones, which is just kind of interesting. And I liked, Kylo Ren. Yeah, Adam Driver plays Ben Solo / Kylo Ren. His story arc kind of comes around full circle. I guess he's the character who's probably had the best development, actually. Out of all the characters, all the main characters, I think Kylo Ren has had the most focus, and he's had probably the best development, I think, across the three movies. We've really seen his conflict, and we've seen what's happened with him in terms of Luke, and we've seen what's happened with him in terms of his pull to the dark and light. And I do like the way he turns back. I mean, it's literally like after that great lightsaber fight, which is awesome on the water barge, when Rey stabs him, literally, it's like she kills the evil part of him. She kills Kylo Ren, and then Ben Solo comes back, and which also segues nicely into the Harrison Ford cameo, which I appreciate. So there's a lot of great things in this movie, and again, that lightsaber fight is pretty great. It's probably not as good as the one from The Force Awakens, but it's still good. It's better than the one from The Last Jedi, I must say. That's my one criticism of The Last Jedi, is the lightsaber fight is not very good, but I'm still happy of the way this film turned out. It is paced very weirdly, I think. I mean, I remember you saying, Alan, when you reviewed that the first act flies by. It just zooms by. And then when we get further in, it does slow down a bit more. And then it picks up again towards the end. It's really weird, the pacing. It doesn't feel like a long movie, even though it's 2 hours, 20 minutes. I mean...
Right. Yeah, the scenes come pretty fast and furious at the beginning. It took a little getting used to, but I think from the second or third viewing of the movie on, I was fine with it. But it is a little too fast at first, definitely. Yeah.
And also, as I iterated earlier, the Knights of Ren were kind of wasted. It's, at the end of the day, it's kind of, they were built up quite a lot, and a lot of people were disappointed with how little they were there. They were just kind of there as Kylo's henchmen, and then at the end, Kylo fights them. So, I mean, they didn't really bother me that much. I didn't care about them too much, to be honest, but I suppose it would have been nice to see them do a bit more. I also like to see 3PO in the movie. He's really good. He's got some of the funniest lines. There's some good comedy. I love the moment when they go down into that cave and Rey extends the lightsaber and then Poe just flicks the torch on. I thought that was very funny. Yeah, I suppose the Force healing powers didn't really make a lot of sense. I thought it was still a good scene when Rey healed the snake or whatever it was, and then she heals Kylo Ren, of course. It does beg the question of, well, okay, if that's possible, why didn't any of the other Jedi do it before? But yeah whatever. I have to kind of accept that that's not going to be explained now. Damn it, JJ. But yeah, no. And also, one thing I want to say about the snake is that I appreciate that it was a practical effect. There are still a few practical effects in this movie, which is nice. I really do appreciate that. That is nice. Also forgot Chewie is good in the film. Chewbacca's good. He gets heavily involved in the action. It is weird how they tease his death and then he's alive. That was a real shame. I didn't want Chewie to die, and thank God he didn't. I was a bit worried there.
Right.
Also, General Hux is wasted. Again, he's Domhnall Gleeson is good in the movie, but he doesn't get that much to do. He's kind of set up to be this mole. He's giving information to the Resistance only because he wants Kylo Ren to fail, which I think is interesting. And obviously their conflict is kind of built up over the first two films. So that's one thing that's been consistent, at least. The CGI is good. It's fun. I mean, there isn't too much else to say. I do agree with you, Alan, about the opening crawl. The opening crawl was really weirdly written. I didn't quite understand that.
Yeah, I mean, the dead speak.
Yeah.
Not the greatest opening crawl. And as you said, the revelation that Palpatine announced through some broadcast that he's still around. Why would he do that?
Yeah. I guess because, I don't know, maybe if it was to do with the fact that Snoke had died, but then he's got loads of clones of Snoke, so why not just send out another clone of Snoke? Or maybe the final order was ready, so he thought, well, I'll just reveal myself, and it does kind of seem very ill-timed, doesn't it?
Yeah, or he just has a really big ego. That's the explanation.
Probably.
I don't know what I mean, say.
Yeah.
Or he's a stupid fucking idiot who, blew his cover, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I also agree with you guys about regarding the revelation about Rey being his granddaughter. The whole kind of backstory about Palpatine's son and daughter-in-law who were killed, and the fact that obviously, okay, Palpatine has had a sexual encounter with someone, or he was with someone. Who was that? Like, they never explained it. Like, they could have explained that as well. They kind of rushed through the backstory. They just said, he found out about Rey, so the parents hid her away, and then they were killed. Oh, okay, right. Well, kind of glossed over that one, JJ, but okay, whatever. It's too late to ask for any more. But as far as JJ Abrams is concerned, I like him as a director. I wouldn't say he's fantastic, but he did a good job with this movie. I mean, he had a lot of pressure to make this movie, so I give him credit where it's due. He turned out something pretty good, but and I actually did enjoy this one quite a bit more than The Force Awakens, but maybe that has changed now. Maybe I rank The Force Awakens slightly more than this, but I actually gave both of them the same rating. But I think this movie works. It's fun. It's a good ending, but it isn't perfect. It also doesn't answer the question of how did Maz Kanata find the lightsaber? Never explained. I mean, clearly she must have gone to Cloud City or somewhere, because when Luke had it in The Empire Strikes Back, his hand was cut off and the lightsaber fell down. So how did she find it? That was never explained, and I will hold J.J. Abrams responsible for that.
Yeah, and not only that, Ollie, but they didn't explain the all the questions we had between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens. Like, how are the First Order stronger than the Rebels or the Resistance, and how did they form and all that stuff? It's like JJ still hasn't answered these questions that he created, But yeah.
Yeah, no, actually, yeah, exactly. And I was going to say that as well. Yeah, the kind of the time gap between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy is 30 years. So between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, there is a big chunk of story that we haven't got, or we at least didn't find out the reason how the First Order rose from the ashes of the Empire. Presumably, there must have been some survivors of the Rebel war or something, but I don't know. I mean, it's never explained. I guess I'll have to go with it because that's what we have. But yeah. So as you can see, I think The Rise of Skywalker is a very mixed bag. I do like the ending, actually, as we've said earlier about Rey going to Tatooine, burying the lightsabers, and then taking on the Skywalker name. That's a lovely ending. And of course, the classic binary sunset is also really good. But I don't love the movie. I like it. I think it's fun. I would watch it for fun, but for me, it's my favorite in the trilogy is still The Last Jedi. I know that's going to shock a lot of people because a lot of people hate that movie, but I'm sorry, I really like that movie, and I do think it is the best of the three. But I do agree with...
I agree as well. Fuck the naysayers. Fuck all the naysayers and critics.
Glad we agree. I do agree with a lot of people when they say that this trilogy didn't really have a structure going in, and I kind of agree with that. I do think maybe if there was maybe a consistent director across all three films, or if there was consistent writing across all three films, maybe it would have worked. Like Alan said, they mapped out The Force Awakens quite well, and then they just kind of left episode 8 and 9 until afterwards to kind of work out what they were going to do. And I think changing directors might have affected that. Clearly, Rian Johnson wasn't a fan of some of the things in The Force Awakens, or he just decided to change it up just for the hell of it. And then, yeah, because he knew he wasn't going to do the third. So to see where it would end would be someone else's problem. But, I mean, it would have been interesting to see Colin Trevorrow's episode 9, Duel of the Fates, which I think would have been very interesting.
Yeah. Apparently they leaked the script, and my friend read it, and he said it was better than Rise of Skywalker, and he really liked Rise of Skywalker when he first saw it. He said it was his favorite of the trilogy, but no, I don't think it is his favorite of the trilogy. He told me recently, but yeah, apparently they did leak the script of Colin Trevorrow's version, and I think I would have liked that. Like, I would have liked to see that more than this one, but yeah, I mean, this one's still decent, but yeah.
Yeah, again, it's good. It's fun. I mean, it's a lot better than the people are giving it credit for. It's a lot better than the critics are saying. So, I give it a thumbs up, and I guess I will finish up by giving The Rise of Skywalker an 8 out of 10. But thinking about it now, I mean, on my last ranking, I actually put this above The Force Awakens. I might change that now. I might actually put The Force Awakens above this, because I think The Force Awakens. I think the Rise of Skywalker has a few more illogical things in it than The Force Awakens or The Last Jedi. But yeah, so maybe when I next do another Star Wars ranking in like 4 or 5 years or whenever, I might change that around. But yeah, that's kind of it. Wow, this has gone on a lot longer than I thought it would. Not that I'm complaining. So that kind of brings us to the end of this reflection. Obviously, there's only 3 of us at the moment. Sorry, Harry Thomas was meant to join us, but technical issues prevented him from doing so. So sorry, Harry. So now I will go and ask you two how you would rank all 11 Star Wars movies. So I'll start with Jack. Jack, how would you rank all 11 Star Wars movies? I mean, we're not going to do the ratings out of 110. I think that would be a bit gratuitous. So we'll just do a ranking.
Well, funny you say that. I've actually written down what I give it out of 110 anyway. So I added up all my ratings.
Okay, if that's something you want to do, then go ahead. I might as well do that then if you're going to do that.
Okay, sure. At the bottom, well, it's no surprise if you've seen my reviews or the reflection. At number 11 is Attack of the Clones. At 0. Yeah. No. Yeah. At the bottom, at 11 is Attack of the Clones at 0 out of 10. For me, it's easily the worst Star Wars film, and I hate it. I just think it's awful.
Jack. You truly, deeply love it.
No, it's just yeah. It's just an awful Star Wars film, terrible CGI, awful love story, the worst script, easily the worst script of the whole franchise, because that awful love story bullshit, like you were in my very soul tormenting me, and Hayden Christensen or his honest trailers called him Hey Don't Act Again's awful acting. Yeah, and it's just a crap film, and I think Count Dooku is wasted. I think they call it Attack of the Clones, but the clones only really attack at the end, and it's boring, it drags on. It's one of the longest Star Wars films, and it's, for me, the most boring, and I just can't get into it. I mean, even as a kid, it was my least favorite, but yeah, Attack of the Clones at 11. Number 10, The Phantom Menace, I gave that a 5 out of 10. It's okay. I mean, I used to really like Phantom Menace as a kid, but rewatching it like back in 2015 before Force Awakens came out and watching it again, yeah, it's okay, but it's very boring. The midichlorians.
Whoa!
Oh God, yeah. The midichlorians and all that bullshit. It's awful.
Jesus, literally.
Yeah, Jar Jar Binks, the most annoying and the most pointless character, like a racist stereotype, like musical Jar Jar Binks,
Oh, George, you really went on the cocaine for that one.
Yeah, God. Icky, goo, and making Jar Jar Binks a general, like Ray Foley, like, what the fuck? Just face palm, George, just face palm. But
yeah.
Yeah, it's another CGI mess. I mean, I think Ewan McGregor's good in there, and there's a good lightsaber fight at the end, and there are some good action scenes and whatever. But I think the droids are shit. The droids are just so easily cut down, and
Yeah.
it's very boring with the taxation of trade routes and all that crap. And um, Natalie Portman's doing a sort of she-meal voice, like the sort
Yeah.
of she-meal or robot voice. Like, yeah. Um, so yeah, I mean there are good things in there as well, but it's just a very mixed bag. So 5 out of 10. Number 9 would be Solo: A Star Wars Story at 7 out of 10. This is where we get to the good ones, thankfully. Um, you know, I didn't have any expectations going into Solo, but I think it's a good film. I think you know, forget the guy's name who plays Han Solo in that, but he does a good job, even if he's no Harrison Ford. Um, there's some good action scenes. Parts of it are a bit slow though. I thought the villain was kind of pointless. But you know, overall, I thought it was a good film. But nothing more than that. It was nice to see some things, but it was kind of pointless to have a prequel of Han Solo, and I didn't like how he got his name, like Han. Oh, you're on your own. I'll call you Han Solo. Yeah, but it was a good film. Definitely one of the better prequels. Number 8 would be Revenge of the Sith at 7 out of 10.
Or as some people call it, Revenge of the Shit.
Yeah. Revenge of the Shit, as some fans call it. I think it's a good film. This is the first Star Wars film I saw at the cinema, so I always have a nostalgic affection for it. But I do think on multiple rewatches, it's gone down for me. I mean, I think the first half is the worst part of the film. Like the whole Jedi Council stuff is pointless, you know, and Anakin bitching about how could you be, you know, on the council and not be a master, and you know the whole opening is good, but it goes on too long. It goes on for like 20 odd minutes. Good stuff in there. I like how they sort of tie into New Hope. A good lightsaber battle. I mean, there's still some dodgy dialogue and acting, but I like all the lightsaber fights and General Grievous and you know stuff like that. And I liked the creation of Darth Vader at the end, so I thought it was the best of the prequel trilogy and a nice way to tie into the original trilogy, even if there are some problems with the continuity there. Then number 7 would be The Rise of Skywalker at 7 out of 10. I think I was a bit generous giving it a 9 in my original review, but I still think it's a good Star Wars film, but there are problems. I think bringing back the Emperor was it was kind of redundant, you know, it kind of cheapened Vader's sacrifice at the end of Return of the Jedi. Some problems there, like a lot of logical loopholes and things they made up, Jedi powers that they made up, and character decisions that didn't really make sense. But I still think it's a good film. I don't think it's nearly as bad as some fans and critics make out. I didn't think it's the worst Star Wars film, but definitely could have been better. But I thought it was a satisfactory end of the sequel trilogy, even if you know there's still some answers they haven't explained and there's some problems with it. 6 would be Force Awakens at 8 out of 10. Good film, good introduction to the new sequel trilogy. I mean, I do think it borrows a bit too much from A New Hope, but apart from that, I think it's very good. I like the introduction of Rey and you know seeing Han again and Chewie and everybody, and I thought it was a really good film for what it was. But yeah, wasn't perfect. Number 5 be Rogue One at 9 out of 10. I think it's a very good prequel. It's definitely the best out of all the Star Wars prequels that they've done. I really like how it ties into the first film, A New Hope, and I really like all the actors in there and the story about you know how the rebels got the Death Star plans and all that. I thought it was great. Number 4 would be the original Star Wars, A New Hope at 9 out of 10. Very good film. Not perfect for me. I think it is a little bit slow, like towards the first hour of the film, but still a very good film. And this is a film that launched the whole franchise, so we got to thank this film. It's a great film, New Hope, really great film. But I don't think it has the dramatic heights in some of the other Star Wars films, but it's still a great film, and give that a 9 out of 10. Number 3 would be Last Jedi, which is very controversial at 10 out of 10.
Baby.
Yeah, I don't care. Fuck the critics. I fuck the fans who hate it. Yeah, 10 out of 10 for me for Last Jedi. I thought it was a great film. I thought it was really ballsy, the directions Rian Johnson went in. I thought it was easily the best of the sequel trilogy for me. I liked all the twists and turns in there, killing off Snoke. I thought was really cool, and sort of having that bond between Rey and Kylo Ren. You think maybe he'll turn to the good side, and then the fight at the end with Luke. And I like how Luke sort of become this changed man. He's sort of given up all hope, and at the end he comes and saves the resistance. And I thought it was a great film. I really loved it. Number 2 would be The Empire Strikes Back, which a lot of fans would consider the best Star Wars film. At 10 out of 10. Love The Empire Strikes Back. This is everything you want from a sequel. One of the best sequels ever made. And love just battles on Hoth. Love Han Solo, Luke Skywalker going through the tests and everything, fighting Darth Vader, the introduction of Boba Fett, Lando. It's just a classic film, like seeing, Hoth and Cloud City and all that. And number 1 would be Return of the Jedi at 10 out of 10. This has always been my favorite Star Wars film ever since I was a kid. I think it's a great emotional wrap up to the trilogy. I think it's the most emotional, and it has the most drama, with Luke trying to convert his father back over to the light side. And I like all the stuff with Vader. He kills the Emperor at the end, and to me, that's where the Emperor should have died. To me, that it's still in my head. That's the true ending, where he throws the Emperor down that pit or whatever it is, and down that shaft, and he dies. That's the true ending of the Emperor for me, and it's a great film. I mean, the Ewoks don't really bother me that much. I love the Endor locations and all that, and seeing Jabba for the first time. But you can't really count that scene in the special edition with Jabba. Like, this is the real introduction of Jabba, and I think the soundtrack's great and everything. And the ending, I think, is perfect, where they defeat the Emperor and the galaxy sort of saved. And maybe this is where the whole Star Wars series should have ended with Return of the Jedi. But yeah, it's kind of the perfect ending. But yeah, I mean, that's my ranking of all 11 films. And out of 110, I give it 82 out of 110. So
Wow.
yeah.
So overall, you really like the series, even though it's quite flawed.
Yeah, no, I really like the Star Wars series. I think 9 of those 11 films, I think, are range from good to excellent. The other 2, Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, will just forget about those films. If I'm being honest with myself, Star Wars probably should have. I think Star Wars probably should have just stopped at a trilogy. I think New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi are great as a trilogy. And Return of the Jedi, for me, really is a perfect ending. You didn't really need Force Awakens or Last Jedi or all that, but I'm glad we did get them anyway. I'm glad we did get all the films like Rogue One and all that. So, I guess Star Wars now is sort of becoming like an MCU cinematic universe with all these films, which I'm not really a big fan of that idea, but I'm glad they're taking a break for now. So yeah, overall, yeah, it's a great franchise, but it is flawed. It's not all perfect. There are flaws in some of those films. 3 of them are perfect for me, and the other 8 are range from very good to crap with Attack of the Clones. But yeah, so overall a good franchise, but it is flawed. But yeah, I do really love Star Wars. But yeah, I think maybe someday they should pull the curtain on the franchise. But yeah, because we thought it was going to be a trilogy, and then it became a saga with 6 films, and now it's like 11 films. So hopefully it doesn't become a cinematic universe of like 50 films. But overall, I think the franchise is great.
Money. Tits in their tongue. Basically, yeah, the money. That's all they want.
Yeah, but I mean, I grew up with Star Wars. I watched that original trilogy and the prequels and all that, so I have affection for all the films, even the prequels, which I'm not a fan of. I still have affection for them because I have nostalgia for them. But yeah, I think overall it's a great franchise, but it's flawed. But yeah, that's sort of my piece on the franchise, my ranking and score. But yeah.
Okay. Right, well, moving on to Alan. Alan, how do you rank the movies, and what is your rating of 110, if you can do that?
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I was quickly scribbling my ranking of the 11 movies while Jack was talking. So I have it for you. Okay, 11 Star Wars movies in all. This is how I rank them. Number 11, all the way down at the bottom, is The Phantom Menace, which I give a 4 out of 10. It's not a total disaster. I mean, what I do like about The Phantom Menace is the great score by John Williams, the visual effects, which I do admit George Lucas look really cool. I'll give you that. The visual effects are cool. John Williams' score is cool. And there are a couple of action scenes in it that I do like a lot. Primarily the pod race, which is always great fun to watch, and the final lightsaber duel between Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Darth Maul. Although I like even better the lightsaber duel when it's just Obi-Wan and Darth Maul one-on-one. That's always great fun to watch. Although so much of the rest of it is just so poorly written and directed. Again, this was George Lucas's first time out directing in 22 years, and I think it shows that his direction was a little rusty. To make a long story short, so it's not without its entertaining bits. It's not a total failure, but for me, it's the worst Star Wars movie of the bunch. So it's at number 11. Yeah. At number 10, not much better, is Attack of the Clones, which for me is the other clunker movie in the Star Wars saga. As I've always said, I just think it's a wafer thin improvement over Phantom Menace, but that's not saying much. It also is still really bad. Again, not without its entertaining bits. Great score by John Williams, great visual effects. There's a couple of good action scenes in there. I especially like Ewan McGregor as the young Obi-Wan. He wasn't given that much to do, or he wasn't given wasn't given that much to do, and he may not have great dialogue to say, but I mean, I think he was a great casting choice, the best casting choice that George Lucas did for the prequel trilogy. Yeah, good action scenes, good visuals, good score by John Williams, but again, poorly written, poorly directed. There's some, just like Phantom Menace, there's some cringy moments in it. Ever so slightly improvement over Phantom Menace, but not by much. So I put Attack of the Clones at number 10, and I would give that one also a 4 out of 10. But that's it for the Star Wars movies that I don't like overall. I think all the others range from good to great, even though most of them are not perfect movies, but they range from good to great in my opinion. At number 9, I put Revenge of the Sith, which I think is definitely the best of the prequel trilogy.
Yay!
Again, there's some cringy moments in it. It's still not a great movie, but this is the only prequel movie that I can actually sit and watch.
Hold me, Annie. Hold me like we did by the lake all those years ago, where there was nothing but our love.
You said it, yeah. Like I said, there's still a few cringy moments in it, but of the prequel movies, this one is far and away the best, even though it's still not the greatest. But again, you got good action scenes. I think Lucas's direction is definitely better. I won't say it's great direction, but it's better.
It's the best you can get.
Yeah. His script for the film, not perfect. There's some clunky dialogue, and you just did one of them, Ollie, with Amidala or Padme.
Oh God, and you can't forget. Oh Annie, you're breaking my heart.
You're breaking my heart. Yes, that's another one. But it's a better script. I'll just say that the one bit with Anakin and Palpatine at the Opera House, and Palpatine, did I ever tell you the story about Plagueis and that was actually a decent scene with some decent dialogue in it. So
Yeah.
definitely an improvement. It's definitely my favorite of the prequel films,
Yeah.
and the one prequel movie I can watch all the way
Yeah.
through. Because Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, I just put them on in the background, like when I'm washing dishes or whatever.
Just very
But
disinterested.
I can't fully focus on either one. You know, really.
Well,
like
that's
in the
the
case
thing,
of
Alan.
Phantom Menace.
With those two movies, we were haunted by the scripts he should never have given us.
Yes, we were. I mean, in the case of the Phantom Menace, when the pod race comes on, I'll watch it. When the lightsaber duel at the end comes on, I'll watch it. But otherwise, I can't fully focus on it anymore.
It's just too boring.
Yeah, too boring. And same thing with Attack of the Clones. You know, the good bits I'll watch, but I can't sit there through the whole thing anymore. But Revenge of the Sith, I can sit through all the way through. So I'll give Revenge of the Sith. I'll give Revenge of the Sith a marginal pass of 6 out of 10. So that's at number 9. At number 8 is Solo, which I think is a better movie than people have made it out to be, even though it's not the greatest Star Wars film ever. It's the one Star Wars movie that nobody asked for. It's the one Star Wars movie that you don't have to watch it. You can skip it if you want to, but if you really truly want to know what Han Solo was like in his early days, how he met Chewbacca, how he met Lando, how he got the Millennium Falcon, and if you want to see the Kessel Run, it's all in this movie. And despite whatever problems happen behind the scenes, I think the finished film is actually a lot of fun. And I still think Ron Howard, who ultimately directed the final version of the film, because the original directors were fired. I thought he did a really good job, and I think I think the cast of the film is great. I think Alden Ehrenreich had a huge pair of shoes to fill, but what do you know? He did the job. I mean, Harrison Ford will always be the definitive Han Solo, but give Alden Ehrenreich credit that he was good as the young Han. I thought he did a good job, and I thought he sprinkled his performance with enough Harrison Ford isms to remind you that this character is Han Solo, and I thought he was good, and I like the cast. I never get tired of watching that great action scene where they're on the double-decker train going around the mountain trying to do the heist on the train. It's fun. It's a fun movie. Not essential viewing, but it's a fun movie. I think it's a fun addition to the Star Wars saga.
That Kessel Run scene is awesome. I'll give it that.
What's that?
The Kessel Run scene is awesome. I'll give it that.
Kessel Run scene is fun and good cast. A really good cast. Alden Ehrenreich, Woody Harrelson, Emilia Clarke. I mean, everybody. Fun. Donald Glover as the young Lando. So fun movie. Not an essential part of the saga, but I'll take it. I like it. So I'll give Solo a 7 out of 10, and it lands on my chart at number 8. At number 7, this may be a controversial ranking, but my opinion is my opinion, guys. At number 7, Return of the Jedi, which I do like. Let me say that again, because I have to keep defending myself whenever I bring up Return of the Jedi. I do like Return of the Jedi. I think it's very good. I also give George Lucas credit that I thought he actually improved the movie for me personally. I thought the movie was improved when he added the special edition visual effects to it. I thought the ending of Return of the Jedi was greatly improved with the new visual effects, and getting to see the whole galaxy celebrating the defeat of the Empire. I thought the music was great because I always despised that original song that the Ewoks sing in the original version. That yub 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 yub.
Although actually that means one change that didn't work was the no. When Vader says no, that was that was the only bad one.
Which I admit, but he added that in much later.
That's why I refuse to buy the Blu-ray because of that change. I'll stick with the DVD without that change. The no, like, oh come on, George,
Okay. Well, I do have the earlier DVD version where the no from Vader is not there, which is the way it should be. But the music at the very end of the movie that John Williams added in the special edition, awesome. I love it, and it's still great fun. I mean, everything leading up to the rescue of Han Solo is great entertainment. The fight over the Sarlacc pit, always great fun to watch. I mean, just when Luke flicks on that green saber and they're slugging it out, Carrie Fisher looking gorgeous in her skimpy attire. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I mean, she was a very beautiful woman back in the day, and many a young boy had that Leia poster on their wall from Return of the Jedi. But also it's just great fun. That whole opening segment, the chase in the forest on the speeder bikes is always great fun, even though the effects on it may look pretty dated because it was obviously done with green screen and with the film of going through the forest sped up really fast. But for its time, it was great fun to watch, and it's still fun to watch now. I still enjoy that. All the scenes at the end with Luke and Vader and the Emperor is still great and has a lot of great dramatic weight to it. And, it's great to see the original cast one more time, even though I think some of the script they were given for that third movie was cheesy, in my opinion. And you know how I feel about the Ewoks. I can't stand the Ewoks. I'm sorry. Lucas originally wanted it to be a planet of Wookiees, but he wasn't able to do it at the time, although he made up for that with Revenge of the Sith, giving us a whole planet of Wookiees because he had the CGI technology to do that. They could just copy the one actor hundreds of times over to give the impression that there's a whole bunch of Wookiees there. But he wasn't able to do that for Return of the Jedi, so he went the other way and he gave us the Ewoks. So I don't think it's a perfect movie, but it's still highly enjoyable. It's a satisfying conclusion to that original trilogy, and I do think the special edition is an improvement over the original. So I would have given the original Return of the Jedi just a marginal pass of 6 out of 10, but with the special edition stuff, I'll bump it to a 7 out of 10 for me for Return of the Jedi. So I still like it. Let me make that clear. I still like it. At number 6, I put The Last Jedi with a 8 out of 10 ranking. Again, this is always going to be a controversial Star Wars movie. As we said earlier, many Star Wars fans hate The Last Jedi with a passion, and we can debate all we want about the storytelling and directing decisions that Rian Johnson made. It was also a Star Wars movie that I needed to get used to. I wasn't completely blown away by it on the first viewing. And there are some movie fans in general who say a movie has to impress me on the first viewing or I'm not going to give it another chance. But I think I'm a bit more forgiving as a movie fan. If there's something about the movie that intrigues me, I'll give it another viewing and try to get used to it and try to get into it. And I think from the second viewing onwards, I truly appreciated The Last Jedi. It's not the greatest Star Wars movie. It's always going to be controversial. There's always going to be the Star Wars fans who hate this movie and who hate the storytelling decisions Rian Johnson made. But I still think it's more than entertaining enough. The movie, I thought, took some interesting twists and turns. The only one that shocked me was his decision to kill Snoke in The Last Jedi. That was the only one that was pretty jarring. I've accepted it now, thanks to The Rise of Skywalker, but it was pretty jarring because I thought Snoke would make it all the way to the end. But other than that one thing, I didn't mind the twists and turns that Rian Johnson put into The Last Jedi. And it was great to see Mark Hamill come back in a great performance as Luke, although there will always be criticism about what happened with his character in it. But I didn't mind. And anyway, we get to see him one more time in Rise of Skywalker, and I think it was a great performance that Mark Hamill gave. So I too like The Last Jedi, despite the hate that it gets. I think it's a better film than some Star Wars fans. It's a better movie than some Star Wars fans make it out to be. So The Last Jedi lands at number 6. I give it a ranking of 8 out of 10. And moving into the top 5, at number 5, The Rise of Skywalker. Although I would put this just slightly, oh so slightly above The Last Jedi. I mean, there are some times when I think The Last Jedi is better, but, The Rise of Skywalker, as we said earlier, I mean, it's got flaws all over the place, and yet, I still think it's a lot of fun. The characters are still very likable, I think. The story, despite, the illogicalness that's littered about, I think the overall story is still fun. And as I've said before, I'm a sucker for a happy ending. What can I say? I'm a total sucker for a happy ending, and I was very pleased overall. It's still fun. It's still great fun. These are still very likable characters. I still think the overall story is good. It may be questionable, but it's still good. The kid in me still had a great time watching it. So again, this is another Star Wars movie that some fans love to bitch about, and fine, let them bitch. They can bitch all they want, but I still think the finished film is great fun, and for me, it's a satisfying uh, conclusion to the saga, warts and all. I still like it. The kid in me had a great time watching it, so I give Rise of Skywalker an 8 out of 10. And put it at number 5. Number 4 is Rogue One, which I think is a great Star Wars movie. Again, some fans hated it, but this is my opinion, and my opinion says Rogue One is a great Star Wars movie. I, for one, have always been curious about who exactly were the rebel spies who stole the plans to the Death Star, as had been alluded to in the opening crawl of the first film. I've always been curious about who they were, how did they steal the Death Star plans, and how big a price they paid to steal those plans. And Rogue One answered all of those questions for me. And again, you've got a great cast. I think the story is great, and I for one think the characters in Rogue One are highly likable. And when they all died at the end, I mean, not at the same time. It's like they're being cut down one by one. But I felt it. I cared about them. But the important thing is that they did not die in vain. They managed to steal the plans. They managed to stay one step ahead of the bad guys and get the plans to the main rebel group. And so they did not die in vain. They accomplished the mission, and they I think it's a great movie. Again, I like all the characters. I like the cast. I like the story. I liked how they brought back. Well, of course, they brought back Darth Vader for a couple of scenes. Great to see him there. And I liked how they brought back Peter Cushing using CGI motion capture and an actor, a voice actor who sounds like Peter Cushing. And again, this was another thing that some fans bitched about. I understand the criticisms, but I thought it was really good to have him there. I don't think you could have told the story of Rogue One without having General Tarkin there. I think he needed to be there. I think they needed to bring him back in the only way he could be brought back, as Peter Cushing's been gone for quite a few years now. But I appreciated them putting Peter Cushing back in there through motion capture and CGI and a sound-alike voice actor. It worked for me. It worked well enough for me. And of course, that final scene with Darth Vader going down the hall, wiping out the rebel soldiers, even though they just managed to get the plans to the rebels on the other side of the wall just in the nick of time. But I think it's a great Star Wars movie, and I think it's a great standalone Star Wars movie, and it did finally tell that story in the Star Wars universe that I always wanted told. So I really enjoyed it. Maybe it falls slightly short of perfection. I can understand some of the criticisms of it, but overall, I'm not complaining. I think it's a great Star Wars movie. So I give Rogue One a 9 out of 10, and I at number 4. Number 3 for me is The Force Awakens. Again, another controversial Star Wars movie, but I really thought it was a great return to form. And a great return for the Star Wars movies, especially since the prequel trilogy kind of left a bad taste in all of our mouths. Even though we give Revenge of the Sith a pass, but 2 of the 3 prequel movies just were not good. I think we agree on that. So The Force Awakens, even if it is similar to A New Hope, I didn't mind at all, and I thought it really was the great return of Star Wars. And it did have that good old Star Wars magic. And I did like all the new characters. I did like seeing Harrison Ford back as Han Solo one more time, and Carrie Fisher one more time as Leia, even though Luke is only allowed that fleeting appearance at the very end. But of course, that leads into The Last Jedi. And I thought it was a very magical Star Wars movie. I thought it did recapture that good old Star Wars magic of old. even if J.J. Abrams had to resort to a plot line that was similar to A New Hope, but I really, truly didn't mind. The death of Han Solo is always a bummer to watch, although I understand why it happened, and I understand Harrison Ford was really only up for doing just the one movie and not the trilogy, although I'm so happy they brought him back for that all-important cameo in The Rise of Skywalker. So that definitely helps me, accept his death scene a bit better than I did before. But I think Force Awakens is great. I think it had that old Star Wars magic. I love the new characters as well as the return of the old ones. And Star Wars was back in a big, huge way. I think the box office on Force Awakens reflects that. So I love the Force Awakens. Again, falls a little short of perfection for me. I won't say it's perfect, but overall, I really love it a lot. And for me, it's the best movie of the sequel trilogy. So The Force Awakens, I give a 9 out of 10, and I rank it at number 3. And finally, you have the 2 Star Wars movies that I do think are perfect, and I have no criticisms of it. Number 2 is The Empire Strikes Back. Lots of Star Wars fans put it at number 1, which is fine. It's a great Star Wars movie, and that's great if it's your number 1 favorite. For me, it's number 2, but it's a great classic, in my opinion, perfect Star Wars movie. It's the sequel that is just as great as the original. I'm sure there was tremendous pressure to make it, which is one of the reasons why George Lucas decided not to direct it, and he turned it over to Irvin Kershner to direct. But it's a fantastic film, and it's a fantastic sequel. And of course, this was the first time we ever got to see Yoda, a wonderful introduction to the character of Yoda, as far as the order these films were made.
The puppet
Oz.
Yoda.
Yeah, the puppet Yoda, and of course Frank Oz doing the voice as well as operating Yoda. And I have no complaints about Empire Strikes Back whatsoever. It's a classic. It's a masterpiece.
Well, actually, there is one scene that I have a complaint about is the kiss with Luke and Leia. Looking back on it, it is a bit weird. I know that they didn't know they were brother and sister at the time, but it's more of a snog. I mean, when you kiss your brother or sister, you normally just kiss them on the cheek or something like that. But this was like a lover's kiss. Ugh, it was a bit weird, but it doesn't damage the movies, but it was a bit weird.
I understand. Yeah, I suppose, now that we know the complete history of Luke and Leia, that maybe it's a wee bit uncomfortable, although thankfully it doesn't go beyond that. And besides that, Han and Chewie were in the room when it happened, so it couldn't go any further than that.
Also, I think there was a little bit of overacting, a little bit of hammy acting from Mark Hamill, who's like, "No, Luke, I am your father." No.
Oh! You don't like that? That's a classic scene. You don't like that?
No. I like the scene. It's a great scene, but I do think Mark Hamill does overacted a bit. Where he's like, no. But yeah, it's a great scene. I'm not saying it's shit or anything.
Well, how would you react if you found out your dad was Darth Vader? You wouldn't be like, "That's impossible." Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, for me,
I'm not saying the scene's shit. I'm saying the scene's. I'm not shitting on the scene. I think the scene's great. I just think Mark Hamill hams it up a little bit, but it's still a great scene.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's shit. I'm not saying, "Oh, fuck that scene, it was awful." No, it was a great twist. But yeah, actually, funnily enough, some people I actually heard didn't like Empire Strikes Back at the time because of that twist. They were like, "Oh, but Obi-Wan said that Darth Vader killed Luke's father," and like apparently some people didn't like Empire Strikes Back at the time because of that. But you never know. It's weird.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there were a few bad reviews for The Empire Strikes Back in the day. Only a few. Like I only read like maybe 2 or 3 at the most, which were pretty shocking. But I think by now people regard Empire Strikes Back as a bona fide classic, all things considered.
Do you still have those reviews? Like I like to see what they said, but yeah.
No, I don't. I mean, like I saw like 2 or 3 of them. I think. yeah, like you said, they were turned off by a couple of the revelations in it, and I don't know. I don't even remember what was said. I just remember I came across them in like 2 or 3 newspapers. But again, only 2 or 3. Most of the reviews
Yeah.
were very, very glowing. But
Extremely
there were 2 or
positive.
3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, The Empire Strikes Back. I think it's brilliant. I think it's a classic. Perfect 10 out of 10 for me. It's at number 2. So of course, my number 1 pick for the best Star Wars movie is the first one, A New Hope. I mean, it's the Star Wars movie that started all. It's George Lucas at the peak of his filmmaking powers.
Yeah,
Even
never
though some
again.
can say, yeah, really. I mean, I give the man credit that he also made some other great movies like American Graffiti. Yeah, that's his baby, American Graffiti. He did another cool sci-fi movie called THX 1138. It's been years since I've seen that movie, but that was also good. It's a very weird sci-fi movie, but yeah, it stars Robert Duvall, and it's definitely worth a look if you haven't seen it yet. But that's a good one. But here, I mean, Star Wars. I mean, this was everything that George Lucas had as a filmmaker, and yeah, he struck gold in more ways than one with this one. Even though it can always be argued that maybe his script still isn't the greatest of scripts. I mean, that's always been Lucas's Achilles heel is as a screenwriter, but he had such a fantastic cast for this movie straight across the board. From veteran Alec Guinness to the new people, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, and all the rest of the cast. Oh, Peter Cushing. Let's not forget Peter Cushing. But I mean, he had a really top of the line cast for this movie that really sold those lines and put a lot of conviction into those lines and made it work, made it all work. It's the movie that started all. It's got everything that a Star Wars movie should be. You've got the characters, the magical John Williams score, the visual effects, which for their time were pretty amazing and are still amazing to watch now, even though Lucas has since added the special edition visual effects, which I actually like. I appreciate the visual effects in the new version. I think Lucas did strengthen those visual effects by adding in the new stuff that he added in '97. I mean, say what you want about the re-editing job on the scene with Han and Greedo, and Han shot first or Han didn't shoot first. How it appears, and of course his later down the road dubbing in Vader saying no at the end of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
But overall, I did like his special edition treatment of the first Star Wars movie. And what he did with Empire and Return of the Jedi too. But for me, the first film is the best film. I mean, that first Star Wars movie came out when I was 8 years old. I'll never forget my brother and sister taking me to see it, even though we had to wait out there for like 2 or 3 hours to get in because the line was around the block to go see it. But the child in me has the best affection for that first movie, and for me, it's just tremendous fun. Great fun straight across the board with the characters, the story, the visual effects, the John Williams score, everything. So for me, A New Hope is number 1, and I give it a perfect 10 out of 10. So there you go. And my final score out of 110. What do you know? It's the same score as Jack, 82 out of 110.
Wow.
Yeah. So to sum up, I mean, it's not. The Star Wars saga is not a perfect saga. There's only 2 movies, the first 2 that were made that I think are perfect. The rest of the movies range from awful, which is only the first 2 prequels in my opinion, awful to great. But most of the Star Wars movies I think are range from good to great. Uneven, but that's okay. Most of the saga I think is great, and I also like very much the 2 standalone Star Wars movies that were made. I do agree with what you guys have said, that it's definitely time to give the Star Wars franchise a break. Although they're already planning the next Star Wars movies, they will not be the Skywalker saga. The Skywalker saga is done, but they will feature all new characters, all new worlds in this Star Wars universe. Although we're kind of given a taste of that with the current Disney Plus show, The Mandalorian, in which we're finally given some new characters and some new situations. And I think The Mandalorian has certainly proven that, yes, we can have Star Wars stories that are not featuring the Skywalker clan and have different characters in different situations. And I think the next movie is scheduled for 2022, maybe. I think that's when we'll see the next one. But
Yeah.
all new characters, all new places.
I mean, they might have to delay it a year or so if they can't film soon or not. I mean, because obviously the coronavirus pandemic is still going on, so filming restrictions and traveling restrictions might be still in place. So I guess maybe it could be delayed till another year, but we'll see. I mean, I don't think we'll complain if it is delayed, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly enough, if it comes out in 2022, that'll be the 45th anniversary of the franchise. I mean, I don't know about you, Alan, but I was kind of disappointed. They didn't really celebrate the 40th anniversary of Star Wars back in 2017. Like, they didn't show I think it would have been a perfect opportunity for the 40th anniversary of Star Wars to re-show the original, or at least A New Hope in the cinemas. But, yeah. Huh?
Oh, he's gone.
Where'd Alan go?
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I mean, I guess he's kind of wrapped up anyway. So I'll get to mine. I mean, I did not expect this hang up to go on so long. I'm quite surprised. But anyway.
Yeah, so am I. Yeah.
Anyway, so going from my opinion, I mean, I guess I kind of agree with you guys. The series is mostly very good. It does have a few bumps in the road. It's not perfect, but as for my scores and ranking, at the bottom at number 11 is The Phantom Menace. It's not without its good moments, but it's generally quite a boring film. I give that a 5 out of 10. Attack of the Clones, not much better, very much on the similar wavelengths. Awful script, pretty bad dialogue. It has a bit more action in it. A good fight at the end, but the story is a bit better than The Phantom Menace, but that's not much of a compliment. Dooku is wasted. It's not a great movie. The acting is kind of bad from Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman trying to sell this forced love story, but yeah. So I give that one a 5 as well. It's okay. And then number 9. Sorry, let me just add Alan back in when he's coming. Alan? Hello?
Hello?
Right. Are you okay, Alan?
Fuck, I'm sorry. Sorry, there was an accident. I pressed a button. I accidentally pressed the leave button. I didn't mean to do that, but I meant to press another button and I hit the leave button. I'm so sorry.
Well, that's all right.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I hope you don't mind. I moved on to my ranking. Were you finished?
Can I just say just one last word? One last word, please.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go.
Yeah. Just one last word. Just to say quickly, the Star Wars saga, not perfect, but there's more than enough movies there that are satisfying. Although I do think it's time for the Star Wars saga to take a break. But I look forward to more Star Wars movies in the future after the appropriate break has happened. And I'm always going to be a Star Wars fan. It's not perfect, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect as long as most of it is good. And I do think most of it is good. So, long live Star Wars. Thank you.
Woo! Awesome. Just to recap for Alan, my ranking so far obviously was The Phantom Menace at number 11 with 5 out of 10. Number 10 is Attack of the Clones, also with 5 out of 10, not much better. Number 9 is Solo, a Star Wars story. I do enjoy this movie, like in parts, but we really didn't need it, and to me it doesn't add much. But it was interesting to see it, I suppose. And I give that one a 6 out of 10. So the next one, number 8, would have to be Revenge of the Sith. It's the best of the prequels, but that ain't saying much. The reason I take it over Solo is because it has more of a purpose to exist, and it actually is a bit more emotionally satisfying, despite some clunky dialogue. I mean, Revenge of the Sith is by no means perfect, but it's it's fine. It's adequate. It's decent. It's good enough for the ending of this trilogy. It's the only one in the trilogy worth watching. So I give that one a 7 out of 10. Number 7. What one was that? Yeah, that would have to be The Rise of Skywalker. I did put it at number 6 in my video ranking, but I'm changing it now. I'm going to put Rise of Skywalker slightly below Force Awakens. I do enjoy it. It was fun, if slightly illogical, and it had a lot to answer, and it was a decent wrap up to this trilogy. But yeah, this trilogy should have had a bit more of a roadmap going in, but still, it was fun. And I gave it an 8 out of 10. Number 6 is The Force Awakens, which is a very fun movie. I enjoyed it. It was a nice return to form for Star Wars, and I really do think that it was a good start to the trilogy. Even though it was very similar to A New Hope, I still enjoyed the new characters, and there was a great sense of mystery. It was a pretty good setup, so I can't complain too much. But yeah, and I gave it an 8 out of 10. What was I? Number 5. Number 5 would be Rogue One. I really enjoyed Rogue One, and like Alan, I was very curious to see how the rebels got the plans for the Death Star, and it was a thrilling movie. The fact that they all died at the end as well was a good surprise and great way to end the movie. And yeah, I liked Jyn Erso as a character, and the ending, of course, when Vader goes down the hallway is classic, and then we see the CGI Leia. I mean, it was perfect. It was perfect ending. The only downside was some of the side characters were very one-dimensional. But I mean, we are only going to see them for one film, so it's not a big deal. But it would have been nice to have a bit more information about them. So I give it a 9 out of 10. Okay, number 4 would have to be Episode 4, A New Hope. I really like this one. Even if the script isn't the greatest, I still enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. The pace was a bit slow to begin with, but once it got going, it was great. And see, Darth Vader is a fantastic villain, and it kicks off the original trilogy with a bang. And it really is a great movie. And George Lucas kind of just got very lucky, and it kind of struck gold with this movie. So yeah, I think it's a very good film. It's not. I wouldn't give it a perfect score, but I still really like it. And yeah, I've grown to appreciate it a lot more over the years. So yeah, 9 out of 10 from that one. Sorry. Number 3 would be The Last Jedi. I know, controversial, but look, I've made no secret that I love The Last Jedi. So yeah, I'm sorry, all the naysayers will be ranting at the moment, but it's just my opinion. The Last Jedi surprised me on many levels. The story went in directions I did not expect, and I genuinely did not know how this story was going to end. I did not know how Episode 9, or well, The Rise of Skywalker, would pan out. So yeah, it was a really interesting experience. I do understand some of the criticisms, like the casino plot being too long and drawn out. You know, fair enough. Although I didn't mind it. I mean, you can't cut it out really. The death of Snoke was kind of a surprise, as well as the backstory surrounding Luke and Kylo Ren. There was great drama in The Last Jedi. Great drama. The lightsaber fight was a little disappointing, I do have to admit. But that aside, I thought it was a really epic Star Wars movie, and it kept me interested for 2.5 hours. So, yeah, I gave it a 10 out of 10. So. Okay, number 2 is, of course, Return of the Jedi. I love Return of the Jedi. Maybe the Ewoks are a little silly, but I don't mind them too much. I mean, I will agree with what Alan said in his review, that them winning the battle against the Stormtroopers is a little bit unbelievable. I mean, they do have rocks and sticks. It kind of dampens the stakes of the battle a bit, but it doesn't bother me that much. But it would have been nice to have had more of a reason as to how these teddy bears could have defeated the Empire. But whatever. It doesn't matter. I mean, because the movie's fantastic, and I love the stuff with Vader, Luke, and the Emperor. Love Endor, love the Jabba's palace scene, even though people say that does go on too long, and you know, fair enough, I can understand that. I liked seeing Carrie Fisher in a bikini, I can't deny that was very nice. Lando was good as well, flying the Falcon this time. The space battle was really cool. There was so much that happened in Return of the Jedi. Death of Yoda was really sad as well. So many great revelations, and if the saga had ended here, it still would have been a great ending. I mean, also you've got the special edition where they added the extra ending with all the planets celebrating. I quite like that, and the music was much better, much better. I mean, I didn't see yes, I didn't see the original cut, but I did see the original ending with the Yub Nub song, and yeah, that's not the way you end a trilogy. I'm sorry, but that's not the way you end a trilogy. That's just a bit. That was a bit flat.
Yub Nub. Yub Nub.
Yeah, no, it was a bit flat. Yeah, I don't think you could have ended it like that. Yeah, I mean, I understand some of Alan's points, but I really do love Return of the Jedi, and I do think it is on par with the first two, and actually, I think it's better than A New Hope, but I still can't take it over The Empire Strikes Back, which I know is everybody's favorite choice, but yep, I've grown to really love this one, and I've always loved it, but I now put it as my favorite. I love how dark it is. I love how wonderful it is. It's humorous. It's funny. It's delightful. I mean, there's so much to love about it. The love story between Han and Leia is great. The plot with Luke training is awesome. Lando is great. Vader is ruthless. I mean, he just kills everyone. I mean, geez Louise. The action is also really good. The lightsaber duel is great. Obviously, the big "I am your father" twist is kind of a big deal, really. But yeah, and John Williams' score is also very good. So yeah, I mean, that's my sort of ratings and rankings. So just to add them up, okay, so Phantom Menace was a 5, Attack of the Clones was a 5, Solo was a 6, Revenge of the Sith was a 7, Rise of Skywalker was 8, Force Awakens was 8, then was it Rogue One? Rogue One was a 9, A New Hope was 9, Last Jedi was 10. The Return of the Jedi was a 10. The Empire Strikes Back was also a 10. So I scored the franchise 87 out of 110. So I guess I'm the biggest champion of Star Wars in this hangout.
So what'd you give it out of 10? You broke it up a bit there. 80 what?
87.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
All right, very good.
Yeah, so I guess judging by ratings, I'm the biggest Star Wars fan here, but no. I mean, at the end of the day, we all love Star Wars. The franchise as a whole, it's mixed. There's certainly a mixture of movies now. Some more controversial than others. I don't think you're ever going to make a Star Wars movie that will please everyone now. I think that's been firmly established, and you guys said it earlier as well, and I agree. Yeah, it's just kind of a tall order. The fan base is very toxic. But that being said, I've got to thank George Lucas for kind of giving us Star Wars, really. I mean, without him, we wouldn't have it. So, and I know that you could make every criticism of the Sun about George Lucas as a filmmaker, but, his vision for Star Wars really was something, and I do appreciate George's efforts and enthusiasms to bring Star Wars to the big screen, even though he didn't direct and write all the movies, which is probably a good thing. But I grew up with Star Wars. I'll always love Star Wars. I do think the movies need a rest. I'm happy to watch more movies. I think we do need some time off. I think we've had 5 consecutive films in the last half a decade, so it's that's one a year. It's kind of time to apply the brakes for a bit, as well with the coronavirus pandemic.
Yeah, they really are trying to make Star Wars into a cinematic universe like MCU. Like, yeah.
I mean, not even just that. The fact is also like the coronavirus pandemic as well is going to slow down productions that want to film. So I think as well, the earliest we'll see another film is, like you say, 2022 or 2023. We're going to have a good few years off, and I think it's warranted. But that being said, I'm not unhappy with The Rise of Skywalker. I'm not unhappy with the 5 movies that we got. I mean, yeah, there are things about them which I don't like, but I generally was entertained. So what can I say? But yeah, no. So that kind of concludes it, really. Not got much else to say. So this has been a very long hangout. I'm quite surprised. It kind of turned into a not only a Rise of Skywalker reflection, but kind of a reflection on the whole saga, really. So yeah, I want to thank you guys for joining me, and it's been a hell of a lot of fun. So I'll just say, is there anything else you guys want to say before we finish?
Just to say, long live Star Wars. I'll always be a fan. Nothing to be ashamed of. I think Star Wars is great. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's great, and I think
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Yeah, long live Star Wars.
Yeah, or as Palpatine would say when he found his new wife at the strip club, Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars. Da 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 da.
Okay.
Using the Force in more ways than one.
The Force is taken. Well, you can feel your boner.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But no. Thanks, Jack, for that contribution. That very dirty-minded phrase. but no, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks, guys. Thanks, fellas. And what do you guys think of I'm talking to the audience. What do you guys think of the Rise of Skywalker? Please comment down below and let us know. And I hope you enjoyed the reflection. Sorry, it went on for nearly 4 hours, but I guess there was just a lot to say. So I'll probably have to retitle this to Star Wars Episode 9 Reflection and Saga Reflection, because it seems to be like the last part of this hangout was a overall summary of the saga, which I think it was fair enough. I mean, it is the end of the Skywalker saga, so it's not the last Star Wars movie. So don't be misled. It's just the end of the Skywalkers. So it will be interesting to see if there are any new characters in the new trilogy, how that will pan out. But I'm prepared to take a respite for now. So
yeah, I think it was right that we reflected on all the films at the end, because we've reflected on all the other Star Wars films so far. This is the last one that we needed to do. But yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And on that note, I think it's time we go. But thank you all very much for watching and listening. Thanks to Jack and Alan for joining me, and stay tuned for more reflections. And thanks to the guys in the live chat who commented as well. So Sam, Harry, and Lauren, and Spider Bart. And until next time, folks, may the Force be with you. Bye for now.
Bye.